out doing the breakdowns for the NFC and AFC East. So, it's gonna be interesting, but I can't do Dallas first, as a Commanders fan. That'll just be that's utterly just this. I can't. I'm not. I'm not made
You're
up.
not starting
like
with the front runners for the division.
we can do Philly. We can start with Philly.
You know what? At least to my dismay, if we're gonna do the NFC East, we're gonna start off with the Commanders. Okay, guys.
All right. I ain't mad at you. I'm just saying.
And I'm gonna start off with the. So we're gonna do the NFC East, and I'm gonna start off with the Washington Commanders. So, might be surprised that after further reading, we're going to start off with the head coach for the Washington Commanders. All right. Oh, we're going to go me, Mo, Craig, Corey, like that. That's cool. All right, cool. So, the Washington Commanders, right? Hey, Mo, is that you?
Hold on, I got you.
Oh, I don't know. Oh, he muted. All right, let's. Wow. All right. On my nose. Okay. Okay. All right. I guess I'm gonna start. All right. Let me. Once again, we're gonna start on the NFC East, and we're gonna do the Washington Commanders. And yes, guys, this is my team. I'm gonna be surprised at what I pick, but I'm fair across the board, and this is gonna surprise some people. But you know what? I'm solidified, and I think I'm gonna pick the correct record at the end of the year. Nobody is gonna be surprised. All right, so the Washington Commanders head coach Ron Rivera, Riverboat Ron. He hasn't been good in the last 2 years. I know we won a division by winning 7 games, but we won 7 games again last year, and he just hasn't had a winning season. So I'm not saying he's on the hot seat, but the third year starts to get a little bit warm, and the fans are kind of starting to get irritated. There's no long-term answer at the quarterback position. There's the league's trending towards offense, and Scott Turner's system seems outdated. I know the first preseason was supposed to be vanilla, but it was just the same old thing that we saw from the previous 2 years, which isn't good because it ended up in losing seasons. So this year looks like a win or bust, and it looks like a bust. So the offense, Carson Wentz is on his third team in 3 years. This is probably going to be his last stop, but he has to show out and improve. And even, it's a desperation move for both, for the Commanders and Wentz. It's just hard to see that if you can't win in Indianapolis, which is a better run organization with a better defense and a running game, how are you going to win an organization who is worse than the Colts? So the running backs, we're having issues there. Antonio Gibson fumbled. Doesn't seem like that issue is being resolved. He fumbled in the preseason game against the Panthers. And then the rookie running back, Brian Robertson, did come in. And right now, Brian Robinson is running with the first team. And Antonio Gibson is covering punts. And he's on special teams. And, that's how it is. He had fumble issues last year. So in the NFL, the one thing you can't do is not turn the ball over. You can't do that. That wins and loses games. The fumbling issue, okay. I mean, it needs to get corrected. Antonio Gibson's in his third year, so hopefully he continues to fix the issue. The receiving core is pretty good. Terry McLaurin is a very underrated receiver. He got paid, which is well deserved, and it took him too long to do it. And then they have Curtis Samuels and Jahad Dotson is having an outstanding camp so far, which is good, but we'll see when it gets in the season. People have had good camps, and then when the regular season gets here, they don't produce how we want them to. But that's how the game is. Sometimes it's especially for rookies, it takes an adjustment period, just like in almost everything in life, right? So, the tight ends, they're decimated by injuries. I did like what I saw from undrafted free agent Amari Rodgers. He was good, but the O-line is the O-line is good, but the tight ends, I don't know what's going to go. To be honest, I don't know what's happening with the tight ends, man. It's not good. The O-line, Charles Leno, he's good. He's back with Sam Cosme. They picked up Trey Turner, who's dealing with some soft tissue injuries, which I don't like. I don't like soft tissue injuries. And so their job is to protect Wentz and then provide great holes for a running back. Hopefully they can continue to do that. Now, the defensive side of the ball is pretty good. Now, you got the 2D tackles that is good. Jonathan Allen, which is a Pro Bowler, and Deron Payne, who wants a trade, but I think he just needs to live up to his draft status, just plain and simple. Because if there was a trade market for you, you would have gotten traded. I think sometimes, like the Kareem Hunt we talked last week, I understand that you want to get traded and you're an NFL player, but if you haven't produced and there's going to be no market for you. That's just how the NFL is. They're pretty cutthroat. And they have, so on the end, you have Chase Young, who's going to start on the PUP list, but he should. He's recovering from injury. And then you have Montez Sweat on the other side, who just needs to be consistent. All right, now for the middle linebackers, you got Cole Holcomb and David Mayo. And David Mayo's he's decent. So is Cole Holcomb. I wish Cole Holcomb was a little bit more athletic. And they drafted Jamin Davis, and hopefully Jamin Davis now adjusts to the speed of the NFL. But it's hard to do that when linebackers. It should be easier for linebackers than it is other positions. So when a linebacker has a longer adjustment period, that's a red flag for me, especially an off the ball linebacker. It's just a red flag. It is what it is. Because most times linebackers adjust pretty quickly. But if you're not adjusting quickly in your first year as a linebacker, it's not like corner or receiver or quarterback. It's like, it's like running back. You should get it and go, So then we have the quarterbacks are decent, but I always say decent, but they start out the season doing good, and then next thing you know, they're just wide receivers are back there barbecuing, like they're having a cookout because our corners suck. But Kendall Fuller and William Jackson's been having a great camp so far. He says he feels great. Says he feels good. So we'll hope to see. And then we have the young guy, Cameron Curl, who showed up last year and balled out. And then Bobby McCain. So we just got to hope our defense is good. But right now we got a lot of injuries. And it just, I don't see us being as good as we were last year. Overall prediction, listen, we're seeing this trend in the NFL regarding quarterbacks and receivers. We did the right thing and we drafted a receiver, Jahan Dotson. The problem is our head coach is not adapting to the NFL, and that's might be the reason why we're not winning. Scott Turner's offense is vanilla, runs a lot of screens. Now, listen, that worked when you had Cam Newton. But Cam Newton is almost a one-generational player, like 6'7", moving the way he did. He had a phenomenal run. But you don't have Cam anymore. And sometimes in life, when you're given a golden nugget and you build around that talent, especially in sports, when that nugget is gone, you get exposed. And that's what's happening with the Commanders. And I wish I was full of grandeur, of dreams, how every sports fan is at the beginning of the season, and say that we're going to have a winning record. But we're not. We're going to finish with the same record we did last year, maybe one better. I give us 8-9. Yep. Mo? Mo? All right. All right, Craig, go ahead. The Washington Commanders. Now, I know I shocked everybody.
No, I'm right here. My bad.
Oh, all right. I shocked everybody.
I don't know what's going on my screen.
Oh,
so,
all right.
I mean,
love the Commanders.
Head coach, I love Ramadan. I love his attitude, his style, but this year, is make a break for him in my eyes. Quarterback, I'll say this, and I've said this numerous times to people, and I get it. In big moments, it's going to matter, but I'm a firm believer in if Carson Wentz gives us 27-7, as far as 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and we don't make the playoffs, that's a problem for me. That's a huge problem for me. Because the NFC is not like the AFC. It's not that deep. So if he's giving us those type of numbers and we can't make the playoffs, that's a problem for me. It's huge. Running back wise, we got to change the turnovers, but I like our running back room. Receiver wise, I need for Curtis Samuel to stay healthy. I think if Curtis Samuel can stay healthy, we got enough receivers to make some plays. To tight end, a little shaky. Jordan Reed, I got to see what's going on with him, staying healthy. But defense wise, if we get back healthy, I think we can be good. Secondary has always been a disappointment to me. Like secondary looked lost last year. I mean, we could say everybody went down in the defensive line, people got hurt, but secondary at times looked like they couldn't cover cold. But we talk about basic routes. We talk about people beating us on basic routes. I'm like, not even nothing that looked real, brought up, good call. I'm looking at us like that's some stuff we can run in youth league and people running wide open. I'm like, no, that's unacceptable. Offensive line, the offensive line wasn't that bad last year, but we can improve. For me, for a ceiling, I'm 10 wins or bust. I think we can win 10 games. If we don't win 10 games, I think it's like an automatic fire. Like Thanksgiving, Black Monday, he need to be gone. I love Ron Rivera, but with the roster we have, I think 10 wins or bust for me.
It's not happening. 8 wins, maybe 7.
I think you look at it though.
It's okay.
We won what was 9 wins last year with all that was going on? What was 9 wins last year or 8?
7.
All right, still with all that was going on, that was 7 wins. And hold up, and a lot of them losses wasn't blowouts. Like we was in them.
Okay, Mel.
I'm saying off of everybody being healthy. I'm looking at everybody being healthy. I'm looking at the whole situation. For me, it's 10 wins or bust. Like we don't win at least 10 wins, he need to be gone. He need to be fired next day. Black Monday, he need to be gone.
All right, Craig, what you got for the Commanders?
So as soon as they lose 8 games, he's got to go. That's because he's there. You're not getting 10 at that point. I I do like Ron Rivera, obviously. I think he's a solid coach, probably like middle of the road coach. But I think this might be his hot seat season, just because of he's been there for a while. They haven't really had a lot of success. He was kind of like a higher profile coach coming out when he was let go by the Panthers. So, and he had that resume of going to the Super Bowl and things like that. So, but like his overall record in the playoffs is 3-5. So, I kind of would have thought he would have been better than that, but a little bit below 500. But I think he's a solid coach, man. I just think this might be his hot seat season. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going around in Washington with the owner and things like that. So it's a lot of distractions. They got people voting on the song and the mascot. Like, whatever, man. It's just things you got to be worried about for the season. But I think this is our perfect opportunity for Washington, though, because like everybody's been saying, the NFC is so down this year. But I'm high on Ron Rivera just for personal reasons. But I don't know if this is going to be his season to get it done. As far as the quarterback goes, Carson Wentz, statistically, as far as touchdowns and interceptions last year, he had a really good season. But a lot of those are not like deep down the field throws or anything like that. So he has to get better than that, and he has to win games. Obviously, the two losses last year at the end of the season to the Raiders and to the Jaguars obviously didn't get him into the playoffs. So he's going to have to do better in these key games, especially if they have a chance to go to the playoffs. So I kind of expect him to be. I mean, the Commanders don't really have any long-term ties to him, because if he has a bad season, he's gone. If he has a good season, who knows what they can do. But I don't know if I don't think this is going to be his last season. If anything, if he does have a bad season, I think he does with the Mitch Trubisky, goes as a backup and comes back next year or something like that. But I think he should have a decent season. He has a lot of good weapons around him. A lot of young guys. Terry McLaurin, obviously, they need to re-sign him. They got that done, so that distraction is gone. They re-signed J.D. McKissick. They went out and got the kid from Alabama, the running back, who in college never fumbled the ball, with over 500 carries in 3 seasons, I believe. Last year, he had like 250 carries or something like that and didn't fumble. So he's not going to really fumble the ball. I mean, that's college. This is pros. People hit harder here and things like that. But he just has that history. So if anything, with the fumbles that Antonio Gibson's been having, it's going to put a lot of pressure on him to produce. And the fact that he doesn't hit the holes, pause. That's no pause. He doesn't hit the holes like he's supposed to. Like Ron Rivera just wants him to go. He just kind of pitter-patters his feet and stuff like that. That's not really going to work for Ron Rivera and the coaching staff. So they have to get that situated. Obviously, the other wide receivers, they went out and got Dawson from Penn State, I believe, and Curtis Samuel, who should be healthy, I would assume. He's always seems to be hurt. And then they got Brown from Carolina last year, so they have some guys that they can throw the ball to. Now Logan Thomas is out on the PUP list, so I'm not sure what his status is or when he's coming back. Seems like every year it seems like they get this. Washington gets former Panthers. They got 2 former Panthers, Andy Norwell and Trey Turner, who weren't on the Panthers last year, but they were former Panthers at one point in time. They went out and got those guys. They lost Brandon Sheriff. They also lost Eric Flowers. So that's some key losses for the offensive line, but they kind of replaced them a little bit. So kind of maybe balance itself out a little bit. On the defensive side, they lost Matt Ioannidis. He was okay, I guess. I mean, he's with the Panthers now, but he should be okay, I would assume. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of his, but the secondary, the secondary is what the secondary is. William Jackson was highly sought after last season. They went out and got him. They lost Landon Collins, who really wasn't a factor to me, I don't think. Anyway, so they still have what's the other cornerback name? Is it
Fuller, William Jackson?
Is it Will Fuller?
It's Kendall Fuller.
Kendall Fuller. I said Will Fuller. Yeah, Kendall Fuller on the other side. So they have decent corners. I think the linebackers is probably
especially with Davis being as high of a pick as he was and him not producing. I think they said now he's playing his natural position that he played in college, so maybe he'll feel more familiar with it and he'll be able to produce. But what I've been hearing on the radio, he hasn't been still. So, it's still a work in progress for him. But as a first round pick, you obviously want him to be ready like day one. So you mentioned Chase Young being on the pup list as well. He's going to miss at least miss week 1. So that's one key guy who had a down year last year, who I know wants to come back and really prove that he was worth that second round or that second overall pick a couple years ago. The defensive line though is one of the best in football. When healthy, they have a lot of guys now. They can't pay all these guys, so this might be the last year for all 4 of them being on the same team together. But they can make it work this year. And the defensive line can get pressure, not like last year, but the year before last, where they were really, really good defense. If they can get pressure on the quarterbacks, then the safeties and the corners and the linebackers really ain't. I mean, you got pressure hitting the quarterback all the time. You really don't need corners to really play like a top 5 cornerback, a top 5 secondary, or the linebackers to play like a top 5 second linebacker core. So I think Washington's in a good position to make a run. I just don't think they're going to be able to get it done. I think Carson Wentz is going to probably lose some games for him. I think the defense is probably going to lose some games for him, especially if the front 4 is not getting enough pressure. And I have Washington finishing. I have them at 8-9. I wouldn't be surprised if they go 7-10 like they did last year, but I think they can go 8-9.
All right, Corey.
All right. When it comes to Commanders, with the coach, I think Ron Rivera was exactly what they needed at that time. He was a calming influence during a massive state of chaos. But Dan Snyder is still there. That chaos is still there. Although I do agree with you that James, that the heat is starting to pick up on his seat right now. I do wonder if Snyder's troubles may not buy him a little extra time that he may not normally get, especially with Congress getting involved. I don't know if Snyder would want to rock the boat in the front office in the coaching staff, but we'll see how that all plays out.
Good point.
Offensively, we'll see if Turner and Norwell can fill the void left by Brandon Sheriff in the middle of that offensive line. I think they could have a decent offensive line. I like Charles Leno. I think it was a smart move to lock him up on for another few years. Personally, I wish the Colts would have nabbed Leno instead of Eric Fisher to be left tackle last year. Terry McLaurin, I think I'm as high on as James is. He is a legit number 1 wide receiver in the NFL. But we'll see what production they get behind him. You got Samuels, Brown, Sims, Dotson. There's plenty of talent there, but there's youth, and then with Samuels, it's just the ability to be on the field. Just a lot of question marks. As James kind of touched on, we'll see what the running back room can provide for them this year. Gibson, I think, excels out of the backfield as a receiver, and that's not really Carson Wentz's game. So I think he could actually kind of lose some snaps. Could be an interesting trade piece for a team like Buffalo, perhaps, that might look at a running back and see that they could maximize a guy's like that potential. Then that brings us to the quarterback. Having spent last year watching Carson Wentz, I think I have a little bit of a different perspective. Sounds like James may have started listening to me a little bit and starting to come around a little. Look, the guy has prototypical NFL size for a quarterback. He is exactly what you want measurement-wise. He has a cannon of an arm. I just don't know that he has it between the ears. There was locker room friction on his way out of Philly, and he landed in his best-case scenario with Frank Reich in Indianapolis. Last year, his stats on paper looked pretty good. 27-7, 3,500 yards, but that was really misleading. I think he played really well to start the year in Indy. He kept them in games when the defense struggled out of the gate, but his play regressed as the season went along. For me, the single biggest indictment against Carson Wentz was Frank Reich's play calling down the stretch, because Frank Reich has always preached that you have to throw the football to win in today's NFL.
Yes.
And Reich called the last month plus of the Colts season like he was afraid to put the game in his quarterback's hands. I would also say Chris Ballard is one of the most prepared GMs in the league, and he moved on from Carson Wentz with absolutely no backup plan.
Yeah.
And that speaks volumes for coming from a guy like Chris Ballard. And I'll say Carson Wentz is an extremely stressful watch. Stephen Holder, now of ESPN, put it best when saying that Wentz makes the easy stuff look difficult. I think there's no question he's a massive talent upgrade from Taylor Heineke. I just think it's to be determined how much of a production upgrade he will be at the end of the day. Defensively, as Craig pointed out, they've got one of the most talented defensive fronts in the NFL. Everyone has something to prove. Chase Young coming off an injury, Payne trying to get a second contract or find a job for next year. All that, William Jackson was their big signing last year, and he didn't live up to the money, so they really need him to bounce back, and it sounds like he is so far. We'll see if he can continue that, and they desperately need Jamin Davis to play like a first-round pick for the linebacker. You can't invest that highly in a guy like that and just get nothing. I think the unit will rely on that front four to disrupt the quarterback and make life on the back end a lot easier. The talent's there for them to do it. We'll just see if they actually can bounce back and provide that production that we saw 2 years ago. Overall, it's going to be a much discussed season for the Commanders. They're in the NFC East, and it gets an absurd amount of attention across the NFL as it is. And the plight of Carson Wentz has gotten a ton of media attention the last few years on top of that. I think if how the team president handled Carson Wentz getting some fair questioning from a reporter is any indication, I think things could get a little bit ugly in DC. I know James had been up to today, been saying all the same stuff that I myself said of Carson Wentz last year with all the hope and optimism. And look, Frank Reich did get significantly better play out of him than what he showed in Philadelphia his last year. It just sounds like Wentz doesn't always listen to his coaches. And then you add in that he rubs guys the wrong way in the locker room. Not everyone had negative stuff to say about him, but nobody really had praise for him, which is kind of weird. And then you look at, like in Philly, you had very well-respected guys like Darren Sproles and Alshon Jeffrey ready to fight him. In Indianapolis, you just had a really respected guy like Naheem Hines take a shot at Carson Wentz unprompted in OTAs. So that stuff, has to cause some concern at a minimum for Commanders fans. But look, I hope Wentz is a success. I don't dislike the guy. I hope he's successful. Hopefully, he ends up being a multi-year answer for DC, get him out of their QB purgatory. I also want him to play so it helps upgrade the Colts draft pick that they're getting next year. But after watching him last year, I think he just has showed that he's not the type of guy who can throw a team that's struggling in a game on his back and carry them to a win. And if everything around him is going well, he can help a team win, but if your team is struggling out of the gate, he's not going to turn your fortunes for you. And when you add in all of the chaos going on around that franchise consistently with Dan Snyder, it just feels like an uphill battle for the Commanders this year. I do think they have a fairly favorable schedule, but I think they go like you guys 8-9 this year.
I know reality hit, Corey and Craig. Reality hit. After watching that preseason game, it's like, you know what? I've been drinking my own Kool-Aid.
I heard one of the Colts bloggers raise a really interesting point about last year. And Wentz broke his foot like second practice at OT or of camp, missed all of camp, all preseason. Had Wentz played that whole time and stayed healthy, would the team and front office soured on him quicker?
Damn, maybe. Maybe. That's a good point. All right, Mo. All right, what team you gonna do next? You gonna do the Eagles?
Yeah, you want to do the Eagles?
Yeah, go ahead and do the Eagles.
Kevin Stefanski, I think he did a good job his first year.
No, Nick Sirianni.
Oh, Nick Sirianni, my bad. Say it wrong.
That's all
I
good.
think he did a great job his first year. Eagles on the uptrend. I mean, to me, it's all about Jalen Hurts. It's all about the quarterback. To me, it's what he gonna do. Like, if he grows to what they thought he gonna be.
If he doesn't, then it's trouble. But wide receiver wise, you got AJ Brown, you got Devontae Smith. That's dangerous. You got Goddard at tight end. The defense is dangerous. Honestly, I hate to say this because I'm a Washington fan, but I'll be real. I think from a football standpoint, I think they're going to win the division. I think Philly going to win the division. Like, I just think with what they have, with the losses of everybody, with the question marks of everybody else, I think Philly going to win the division. From an outside standpoint, I think Washington I think we should make the playoffs, but I think Philly going to win the division because of what they have. I think talent-wise is going to override the fact. I know a lot of people talk about Dallas because the quarterback is better, but I think overall talent-wise, if Philly don't win the division, somebody got to go. Is it the head coach or the quarterback? One of them got to go. They got
Golly, Mo, you can't be an owner, man. You try to fire people up.
No, I understand it. I understand.
Whoa,
but
man. You gotta
hold
give
up.
people some
Hold
time,
up.
man.
Hear me out, though. No,
You
hear me
gotta
out.
work on your patience.
No,
bruh.
hear me out. That's how bad the division got to be because, and I'm going to say, I think it's going to be quarterback. If Philly don't win the division, I think Jalen Hurts won't be the starting quarterback next year. I think they're going to bring somebody else in. That's just me because Philly that's how Philly rolls.
Maybe.
Like,
If they don't make the playoff, if they don't win the division, make the playoffs, could they make a change in quarterback?
Right.
Maybe. You might be right on that one.
Right. I don't think I think they would pick that. I think they would go quarterback over coach because of how deep this next quarterback class is because of the number of picks they got. I don't think they'll fire the head coach, but I think they will change quarterback. But I mean Philly. I mean I would be shocked if Philly doesn't make the playoffs. If they don't win the division, I'd be shocked with the talent they got. If they don't make the playoffs, I'd be highly shocked.
All right. Craig, Philadelphia Eagles.
Okay. Well, Nick Sirianni, I think he did a really good job last year, obviously making to the playoffs. 9-8 his first season. I don't know who had the Eagles making to the playoffs. I don't think a lot of people. So I just thought he did a really good job last year. Obviously this year there's a lot more pressure on him. There's a lot more expectations for this team because the division is down or the conference is down. The division is down. And you got Jalen Hurts back there that, you have to see what he can do this year. I mean, it's kind of make or break for him. I think this year, at least a lot of people are saying that. And he didn't have a great year number wise, stats wise, anything like that. Like it didn't blow you away, but I mean, 16 touchdowns, 9 picks. It doesn't really, for a 17 game season, doesn't really say a lot. But he can scramble, he can run the ball. I think he led the team in rushing. So he does a little bit more than I guess your average quarterback because he can make plays with his legs as well. So obviously, to me, you want to get those touchdowns up, the interceptions down. He can still run the ball and protect himself and stay healthy and just not take big hits or anything like that. Scramble, get out of bounds, slide, get down, whatever you got to do to not take those big shots. I think they can have a really good season behind it. I think he can have a really good season as well, a Pro Bowl type season. I think the Eagles have the best offensive line, the best wide receiver group, the best tight end, and as far as offense goes in the NFC East. The quarterback, I think, obviously, Dak Prescott, but I think Hurts is right behind him. I think Jalen Hurts is number 2, especially with his potential. If he lives up to his potential, lives up to the expectations that a lot of people had for him, and what Philly has for him this year, I think it's going to be a really good Pro Bowl type, playoff type season for him. The running backs, Miles Sanders has been there forever. Miles Sanders had 0 touchdowns last year running the ball, which is hard to do, I think, for a starting running back. I don't remember the last time that's been done. I haven't looked it up or anything like that, but it seems kind of hard. Crazy thing is, to me, is that Miles Sanders gets yards. He averaged 5.5 yards a carry last year, which, I mean, I don't understand how you can average that many yards and he doesn't get the touches. I know Jalen Hurts took away from some of that stuff, but a lot of those weren't designed Jalen Hurts runs. They were just Jalen Hurts making plays. He has a scramble or whatever it is. But, I mean, they only have 137 touches. Now, I know he played only 12 games, but he still has 754 yards, second on the team. But, I mean, no rushing touchdowns. It's kind of strange. They just don't give him the ball. I mean, like, he had 18 carries for 131 yards, 24 carries, 120 yards, 9 carries for 64 yards. It's not like they were getting blown out. They lost that game 13-7 where he had 9 carries, 64 yards. I don't understand. Maybe he got hurt. I don't know. Another game, he had 9 carries, 56 yards. I mean, that's 6.2 yards a carry. I mean, he's getting yards basically, and they just don't. I've been saying that for a long time. They don't give him the ball enough. I know they have always had like Boston Scott, and they had Jordan Howard a few years ago, and other. They had like a 3-4 guys, and this year they got Boston Scott again. They got Kenneth Gainwell again. So I mean, they have guys, but I mean, Miles Sanders should just get more touches, basically, just based off of the stats and the numbers that he can produce. Going out and trading for AJ Brown, which is another guy that can throw the ball to, is big for the teams. Is big for Hurts, mainly because that's just another guy that you can trust versus having Zach Pascal and Jalen Reagor. Like these, this is like you got AJ Brown on one side, you got Devontae Smith on the other side. This is the best. This is the best wide receiver group in the NFC East. You went out and traded for him for a reason. AJ Brown put up pretty good numbers with Ryan Tannehill. Now, to me, he gets a similar quarterback in terms of like where they are in their like right now, as far as like average and top 32. But
would you say that's Jalen Hurts' ceiling?
No. I think he has more potential. I'm just saying, like, if you were to give me the top 32, I think they're probably around the same middle of the pack range right now. But I definitely think he has a higher ceiling. I mean, but so I think that they have Dallas Goedert, one of the better tight ends in the league. I think he's now that Zach Ertz has been gone for a couple of years, he gets the shine on his own. The offensive line is really good. They're like they're probably the second or third best offensive line in the NFL. So there's no reason why they shouldn't be able to get not only runs with the running backs or whoever, and they should be able to block for Jalen Hurts. On the defensive side, they have a really good defense as well, or they, or at least they should. They didn't really lose anybody, and then they went out and then they got obviously they got Hassan Reddick, who I thought had a really good season last year. They got Kaiser White, who did okay. Nothing spectacular there. They still have Fletcher Cox, I know he's getting up there in age, but I mean, he still can produce. Javon Hargrave, Brandon Graham. So they have some big names out there, and these guys are still producing. So I don't expect the Eagles front four to not have another solid type season. And if they can get production out of Hassan Reddick like he did last year, then I mean, it's going to be crazy. And then obviously they went out and signed James Bradbury, who was let go by the Giants. So he goes to a division rival. I know he has payback in his mind. They have Darius Slay, another really good cornerback on the other side, Marcus Epps, Anthony Harris. So the Eagles have a really good secondary as well. So I think the ceiling is high for the Eagles. I think the expectations are high. As long as Jalen Hurts can come out, he's obviously the key. As long as Jalen Hurts can come out and produce, not turn the ball over, not try to do too much, I think they're going to be fine. I think even if he I don't want to say he gets hurt, but even if he does get hurt, I think they have a capable backup who can come in and be serviceable and Garner Minshew, who I think is, I ain't gonna say he's underrated, but I mean, he just doesn't get the shine that I thought when he had those numbers that he put up in Jacksonville, which is a terrible franchise. So I got Philly going 10-7, and I got him winning the division. So,
All right, Corey.
Yeah, when it comes to Eagles, much like you guys, I think Nick Sirianni did a lot better job than I thought he would last year. I really liked him as an OC in Indianapolis, even though he wasn't a play caller at any point in his career before getting the head coaching job. He was a guy that his offensive players really loved. So it makes sense that he was able to to land the way he did in Philly and kind of get the locker room to embrace him the way that he did. The roster across the board has improved though. So we will see if last year was more of a fluke or, if he's the real deal. Offensively, I'm there with Craig. I like Jalen Hurts. I definitely like him more than James does. I think he's up to this point been a solid starting quarterback in the NFL so far. And I do think the potential's there for him to grow, take another step, and kind of put himself in that upper tier of quarterbacks. I agree. I think he's the second best quarterback in the division even today. But I believe it was Mo kind of made the point that Philly does have the draft capital to go after a quarterback next year. So the pressure is definitely on Jalen Hurts to play well, to show progress, and solidify the starting job in Philly as his. Philly, I agree, has the best wide receiver group in the division. So obviously getting AJ Brown's a really big deal, adding him opposite side of a guy like Devontae Smith, who I really like. Again, he reminds me of a ton of Marvin Harrison. Just his route running, his hands, his demeanor, everything, and just less likely to potentially allegedly shoot someone. I do also think, though, that adding Zach Pascal as their probably wide receiver 4 option was a really underrated move. Pascal's a guy that Sirianni absolutely loved in Indianapolis. Talked about as the kind of guy that he would want to marry his daughter. Pascal's a really underrated run blocker. And when only asked, provide limited snaps for you in the receiving game, he's a really good option. And we'll see what happens with that running back room. I agree with James. Like they need to get Miles Sanders the football. He's by far the most talented running back that they've got. Why they are so adverse to giving him the ball, I don't understand. It kind of is similar to Green Bay and Aaron Jones for me. I don't get it. Miles Sanders in interviews seems like he doesn't quite get it either, but is kind of warning people not to take him in fantasy football. So take that for what it is. But I do think if Jalen Hurts takes that next step as a quarterback in his progression, that Philly can have a pretty good season. Defensively, not only getting Hassan Reddick, but getting him at the price that they did was a really good move. He's a very talented pass rusher that probably should have got a lot more money than he did, but he wanted to go back to Philadelphia and play. If Cox and Graham can stay healthy, I think they have a very solid defensive front. I think Kazir White was a pretty solid addition to their linebacking core, and picking up Bradbury to go opposite Darius Slay, I think was a pretty big upgrade for them in the secondary too. So I expect their defense to be improved from last year. Overall, I think Philly did a pretty good job of upgrading their roster. I think they got better at all 3 levels on defense. They were able to keep Jason Kelce in the middle of their offensive line for another year. Adding AJ Brown to the wide receiver room, I think is a pretty big deal. Gives them a ton of talent to work with. There was really no excuses for Jalen Hurts this year. And I think Philadelphia is in a similar situation as a team that we'll get to in a bit in Cincinnati, in that we'll see how the team responds when they have real expectations going into the season. Last year you had a rookie head coach, you had the Carson Wentz debacle. there wasn't a lot of pressure because nobody expected anything from Philly last year. I think I had them winning like 3 or 4 games or something myself.
Yeah.
But it's very different when you're in a conference like the NFC that's a bit down, and in a division like the NFC East that's just always middling kind of for the last decade or so.
Yeah.
And you have real expectations on you to make the playoffs and potentially make a run at the division title. We'll see if they can live up to it. Philly isn't the most forgiving fan base in the world, so I think that adds a little more pressure to them. But I think they can at least make a playoff run, and I got 10-7 for them.
All right. So after a lot of deliberation, after a lot of thinking, I think the Philadelphia Eagles are going to be. I think they're going to win the division. Let me break down the coach. Okay, I like Nick Sirianni. His play calling was questionable at times, especially I agree with Craig. I agree with Corey. The Miles Sanders thing is very interesting. I don't know why you're not running the ball with him more. I just don't get it. Craig brought up 2 specific games where, anytime the running back has 6 yards per carry, you would think that you would just keep riding him till the wheels fall off, right? It's the NFL, wins matter. So that's clueless to me. So we're gonna see. Now, this is what we do know about the NFL. They adjust very quickly, and Nick Sirianni has a year under his belt, so they're gonna be looking for him, and they're gonna look at. There's now film on him, so we're gonna see if he adjusts. And I agree with Corey. The pressure's on, but when you play for the NFC East, you play in the NFC East. Schedule's a week, and the division is weak. There's always something going on in Washington. Dallas is putting, we're going to get to them later, but they're putting a lot on Dak, as they should, but shouldn't. And then you got the Giants, who are looking to have a high draft pick, and everybody knows it. So now Jalen Hurts, I'm not as high on Jalen Hurts. I don't think he can throw it. I think Tannehill is his ceiling. I think that's his ceiling. I don't think he's going to go higher than that. I think he's just going to be an even kill quarterback. Yeah, so I think that's the ceiling, an average quarterback. That's what Tannehill is. That's what Jalen Hurts is. I don't think he's ever going to get you over the hump. That's just my opinion. That's just how I feel. Just from like watching the game tape and seeing how he throws. But we'll see this year. Once again, they surrounded him with weapons, so he needs to produce. Running backs, I think they're really good. They got Boston Scott, Kenneth Gainwell, Miles Sanders. According to Sanders, don't pick him in fantasy, so it might be a running back by committee, which I don't think they should. I think they should lean on Sanders. I think he has the potential to be a number 1, but obviously they're not. The receiving core is the best in the division, one of the best in the NFC. So Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown have been building a chemistry through camp, which is always a good sign. And then Devonta Smith is, I think he's great. And he was one of those guys who I thought he was the best receiver. One of the best, not the best receivers, but one of the best receivers in the draft. And I think he's going to blossom. Dallas Goddard is balling in camp, as he should. He's a wonderful tight end to have. And he's a great professional. And, some teams wish they had him on this roster. The offensive line's pretty good. They were good last year. They're getting a little up there in age. But Kels is coming back. Jason Kels. And the left tackle, we're gonna see how he fares. But the right tackle, Lane Johnson, is a steady pro, so I think they're good in that area. The defense, man, the defense is always good. Fletcher Cox he just holds down the middle, man. Him and Hargrove, they're vets. And then you have depth with Derek Barnett, Josh Sweat, who Josh Sweat was really good. So let's see if he can build on that and be more consistent. Corey said, I like Kazir White. And Hassan Reddick was a steal. Great steal by them. Now, the cornerbacks, he likes to be called Slay, so that's what I'm going to call him, man. Slay is obviously underrated. I think he's one of the best corners in the league. And then they got Bradbury, which is crazy because I like Bradbury since he was in Carolina, and I've been a big fan of his. And I think he's a baller at corner, and I think he's solid. So, and then you got Anthony Harrison and Marcus Epps. So I think their defense is good, and it's going to be solid. You know, Philly's always had a pretty good defense as long as you have that vets in their locker room, and they just added. So my overall prediction is this year is they're going to make it to the playoffs. They made it to the playoffs last year, but now everybody's expecting more because you built around Jalen Hurts. So Nick Sirianni should be giving the ball more to Miles Sanders. He should be opening it up more for AJ Brown, Devontae Smith. Jalen Hurts should be the floodgate should open up for Jalen Hurts because they're doing similar to somebody in Miami who we're going to get to down the line. So I think they have all the potential, but I do agree with Corey. Like, now the pressure's on them. But let's see. You pressure bust pipes or make diamonds. That's what they say. So I got them winning the division, and I have them going probably 10-7 or 11-6. So they're gonna win the division. All right, Craig, who you got?
I'm going with the Giants.
Oh, switching up. Craig been doing that, guys. You don't know who's going to pick.
I mean, it's only 2 teams left, but yeah, I'm picking the Giants.
It's going to be a quick one, huh?
Yeah, pretty much. The coach is still he's new, Brian DeBall. I think he could be a really good coach. He has good offensive minds, especially what he did with Josh Allen. So if he can kind of take what he did with Josh Allen to Daniel Jones, I mean, they're not the same guy talent-wise, but who knows? This could be Josh's job. I mean, this could be Daniel Jones's coming out party. I don't know. I know he's not tied to Daniel Jones, so this could be Daniel Jones potentially last year for the Giants. But I mean, Brian DeBall could be the guy there that could finally get this Giants team back into the playoffs. I don't think it's going to happen this year, but who knows? They seen the Bengals, so who knows? You never know. But Daniel Jones, man, he's just not good. He had 10 touchdowns to 7 picks last year. He hasn't really lived up to that 6 overall pick a couple years in 2019. So if I guess if anybody can get something out of him, it's Brian DeBall. But you're only going to get out whatever he has in him, which I don't think he has a lot in him. So that season that he had, his rookie season, it looked pretty good, looked pretty promising at least. And then from the last 2 seasons, it just hasn't been anything. I mean, he has 21 touchdowns in the last 2 seasons. In 2019, he had 24. So, it's just not. He just hasn't lived up to expectations, especially as high picking. But what can you expect from a Duke player? You know what I'm saying? So,
God, woo.
I just don't.
Man,
Man.
it's cutthroat. Man, it's cutthroat. Boy,
That's gonna make it on TikTok.
Put it out there. I don't care.
I love it.
Offensive line, they're okay. I think they're kind of second half, or bottom half of the NFL. They just have a lot of mix and match pieces. I do like the fact that they got Neal. I kind of wanted him to go to Carolina, but he's going to the Giants. I think he's going to be a great offensive lineman, and that was the knock on the Giants for the last I don't know how many years, that they just don't have any offensive line help.
Years.
The quarterback, in this case Daniel Jones, but also to protect for the running backs, Saquon Barkley. So they kind of went out and they addressed that. They got a few offensive linemen, nobody of big note, like nobody that was like a household name or anything like that. But I think the fact that they got Neal, and I think he's playing right tackle instead of left tackle because they have Andrew Thomas at left tackle. But still an upgrade at least. So they definitely should have some improvement on that offensive line. Saquon Barkley, he just hasn't been healthy the last couple of years. Kind of like Daniel Jones, he had a really good first year, and then he's been going down ever since. I think if he can stay healthy, I think they have a really good running back. He's a top 5. I think if he can stay healthy, top 10 at worst. The problem is, just, like I said, he just can't stay healthy for some reason. So, we're still going to wait and see what happens with him. Behind him, it doesn't really look too good. Matt Breida, who's been around for a while, as like a second back or something like that, third back. He's not somebody that you want to have the team relying on for the rest of the season if Saquon does go down. But the sky's the limit for Saquon, as he just had to stay on the field. The wide receiver, Kenny Galladay, man, like he didn't live up to any expectation. Pretty much anybody receiving the ball for this team does not live up to expectations. Kenny Galladay, Darius Toney, who they traded up for. I think they traded. No, did they trade up for him or trade back? I can't remember. Kadarius Toney from Florida.
Traded back for him.
They traded back. They traded back. They could have had Devontae Smith. There we go.
I thought they should have got Dershaw from but he went to Minnesota. Instead, they got Kadarius Toney. They could have got a bunch of people. They could have got Slater, but whatever. So they got Kadarius Toney, who didn't live up to anything last year. He was
different
terrible.
regime.
Sterling Shepard, he's on the IR, huh?
No, I'm the last.
Oh, Sterling Shepard's on the IR now. He's on, or I should say, the PUP list. Darius Slayton, they have decent name receivers, but they just don't live up to expectations. They went out and got Ricky Seals-Jones because they lost Eric Ingram. Maybe Seals-Jones can do something for this team. The offense just looks. It's just not going to be good. It starts with Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley, and if those two guys don't get it done, I don't really have any high expectations for any of these guys. I'm kind of staying with anybody on this team for fantasy-wise. On the defensive side, though, the defensive line looks promising, like especially the front three. I mean, they have Dexter Lawrence, Leonard Williams. Obviously, they went out and got Thibodeau in the draft. Aziz, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he's on the
Ojulari.
Yeah, there you go. He's on that defensive line as well. So I mean, they have some that if they can get pressure on the quarterback, I think this could be a surprise top 10 front three, front four. I think they play 3-4, front three. So I think they could really make some noise with these 3 or 4 guys. I think Blake Martinez, if he can come back, he was injured last year. So in the linebackers with the linebackers, if he can come back this year and have a solid season, I think he could lead that linebacker group. As far as the secondary goes, Adoree Jackson, they lost Bradbury, which you mentioned earlier. They still have Xavier McKinney. So I don't really have any high expectations for this secondary group. It's unfortunate that they couldn't re-sign Bradbury. I think he could have made a difference for this group. But be it as it may, like I said, it just starts with Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. Those are the 2 key guys. If they can get the ball wrong, they stay healthy. Daniel Jones can make plays like he did in his rookie season, and Saquon Barkley the same way. I think they could surprise some people. I actually kind of liked them last year before the season started, and then he just went downhill. But this year, they're not going to fool me again. So I'm picking 6 and 11. It's better than what they had last year. They won 4 games last year, so it's a little bit more of an improvement, but they're still ways away. I think this could be Jones's last year quarterback for the Giants.
All right, Corey, what you got the New York football Giants?
When it comes to the Giants, coaching wise, for me, TBD. First time head coach, we'll see. Offensively, I think the entire focus of this team this season is letting Brian Double work with Daniel Jones and see whether or not they're drafting a quarterback next year. I like their draft last year. I think getting Evan Neal along with signing Mark Lewinsky, who is a solid guard in the NFL. I think they will lock up the right side of that line. They should get a lot better offensive line play this year than they have the last few years. They've got talent at the skill positions, but it's just a matter of getting people on the field. Kadarius Toney was a very questionable pick on numerous grounds. Then Rondale Robinson from Kentucky was weird because it seemed like another Kadarius Toney. We'll see who all they can get onto the field. Kenny Galladay is talking like he's healthy and ready to go this year. We'll see if he can produce anything after getting a boatload of money last year. I've heard Darius Slayton's name come up as a potential trade piece before cutdowns this year. Honestly, I'd love to see Indy make a run at him for a late round pick if he's available. It's another guy that's got talent. And, you can keep him on the field. I think you can get some production out of him. But this offense is just it's going to come down to Daniel Jones and whether or not we have to see Tyrod Taylor at any point this season. Defensively, I really like the draft pick in Thibodeau. I think him opposite Azeez Ojulari has a lot of potential for them. Two young, talented edge rushers. I don't know how good that back end's going to be for them, as Craig kind of touched on. And I think combining the questionable talent with the high potential for the offense to be putting their defense into bad spots, I think that could be a combination for a rough season. Overall, I do think the Giants moved in the right direction this offseason with the GM and coach move. Had a good draft. I know for them, the hope is Dable can do similar work as he pulled off with Josh Allen. As mentioned, the talent level nowhere near comparable, but I think the Giants are in a similar spot as the Lions were last year, in that wins do not matter. You're looking to see if the head coach can win over the locker room and if the team can at least make progress and look competitive. I don't expect much from them this year. I think they could easily end up going 4-13 again, but it could be a very different 4-win season from last year.
All right. The New York Football Giants. I do agree with both of you. The head coach, it's his first season, but Brian Daboll, I like the hire because of this. If the league is trending offense, you want to go offensive minded coach. He goes to Josh Allen. He was creative in his play calling. So I like that. He's also been an assistant for a while and worked his way up. So I like the hire. So let's see if he can. I mean, this year's agree with Corey, like the Lions last year. Kind of give him a pass. He's a first-year head coach. I know Bo might want to fire him, but I give him a year. So so Daniel Jones. I mean, this is the end of the line. Not to say that. I mean, I don't think as a starter, I don't know. I think they've given him as much chances as one quarterback can get. I don't even think his job has ever been up for grabs. I think they've been like, we're gonna, he's gonna play the whole 5 years. Yeah. So I mean, they've had a lot of high draft picks. Everybody stopped with that I can say it now, and it's weird that his nickname was Danny Dimes off one good game against Tampa, and he's never produced after that. The media is quick to give nicknames out, really, just so quickly. Danny Dimes, and I haven't heard that name in a long time. But
Because he's in New York.
That's probably, I agree with that. So maybe he puts it together this year, but so far in camp, that hasn't been the case. But I think they're taking the right approach. Like, listen, we got offensive minded head coach. So let's see what we got. You got a 1-year audition. If they go to the playoffs this year, Daniel Jones is safe. You get paid. I don't know if it's Kyler Murray money, but but if you don't go to the playoffs, we'll split, which is fair. He's been given an opportunity, a fair shot, which it's hard to say for a lot of quarterbacks. They've had a lot of patience with him. Saquon Barkley had a lot of patience with him as well. He has so much potential. I just hope he stays healthy and balls out. But it's always something. It's always an injury, and it's hard for running backs. Their shelf life is already so small, man, so short. For NFL running backs, because they're on the field and they touch the ball a lot. And when they're not touching the ball, they're blocking. When they're not blocking, they're catching passes and running up the field. It's one of those positions that, it's a grueling position. So I hope he stays healthy and balls out. They do have Matt Breida, who he's a good backup, had San Fran and came from Miami. So he's a solid quality backup. The receiving core should be phenomenal, right? So they got Kenny Galladay, Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton, Kadarius Toney. They traded down for Kadarius. I hope he balls out, but I would have. They've had offensive line issues for a while, so I would have probably went O-line. That's just me. And Slayton is taking a step back. I like Slayton, so maybe they'll trade him. And maybe Sterling Shepard can go in the slot where I think he dominates the most. But once again, you have to have a quarterback getting you the football. Tight end, I think that they let Evan Ingram go, as they should. I don't think that they were agreeing on the terms and his field production. He's one of those guys that they've given a lot of time to, and I think they're starting to realize that they need to be in rebuild mode. The offensive line is getting better, finally. That's one thing they did not support Daniel Jones as O-line. They got Andrew Thomas and they got Evan Neal, who's the first pick. So hopefully we'll see how the middle of the line holds up. Sometimes the middle of the line is just as important as the tackles, because if you get a good pass rush up the middle, it's going to be hard for a quarterback. The defense, listen, their defense is I really like their defense. Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams, great for the 3-4. Olajari, like Craig said, had potential last year, showed a lot of flashes. Most times when you see somebody show flashes at the end of the year, now you just hope for consistency for this year. And then I think Thibodeau is going to be an outstanding star. I think he's going to be a star in this league, and I think it was a great pick. The linebacker, they're okay. I like Blake Martinez. He's solid, gets a lot of tackles, came from Green Bay. Was good last year. Of the corners, Aaron Robinson, he's been making some good plays in camp, but we got to see how that translates to games during the season, because that's what it's about, right? And then they have Xavier McKinney, who's a vet, so he's He's a pretty good free safety. And then they have Adoree Jackson. Sometimes when teams let you go, it's either the system or they don't like what they see. Could be a contract issue. So I did like Adoree Jackson when he was at Tennessee. So I think they got some good pickups. I still don't know why they let James Bradbury go. Maybe they saw something in Aaron Robinson. I don't think he's a better corner than James Bradbury. That's just me. Maybe they saw something that we haven't. We'll see. So my overall prediction is they're gonna be bad. I think it's gonna be like the Lions last year. They're just gonna expect to have the second pick in an upcoming draft. I don't think they're looking to go to the playoffs. I know you say that for, we're not tanking, but they're evaluating all the talent on their team at this point in time and to see who they're going to keep over and to see who they're rebuilding with, because they're in full rebuild mode. The only pieces that are probably safe, probably Dexter Lawrence, Leonard Williams, Thibodeau, and Evan Neal. Well, no, I'm sorry. Probably Thibodeau and Evan Neal for real, because they got a new GM as well. So everybody is playing for a job. So I think this year's straight up player evaluation. We're going to implement this system. Let's see how you play. We don't care about winning and losing. We want to. Let's see. Everybody cares about winning and losing. But if I'm the owner, I want to see who's going to give me maximum effort. And if they don't, they have to go. And then we're going to bring in people here that want to win. And that's what they're leaning towards. So my prediction for them is 4-13. All right, Mo, New York Giants.
Love the hire. I love the hire. I think it's going to bring stability. But the question is now is as a head coach, Daniel Jones won't be there next year. If he's there, he'll be a backup. He's not going to be there next year. So it's a lot of issues there, and you bring him in. But as a head coach, I hope they give him the time to give him a fair shot, because there's a lot of uproar there. I love the defense more than the offense. The defense has a lot of young players. The offense is a mess. Saquon Barkley is, of course, the best player there once he's healthy. Receiver-wise, there's nobody there that scares me. There's not a receiver at New York Giants that scares me. Well, I'm like, we got to worry about him. I see them maybe winning 5 games. Once again, I repeat what I said a couple of weeks ago. We played them twice in a 3-week span. I think we got a bye week in between. If they sweep us, Ron Verdi be fired immediately. Ain't no finishing seat. No. The Giants is that bad. The Giants is that bad. If we lose twice to them before, and you got a bye in between, and you lose, yeah, okay.
No.
All right. No. I'm sorry. The Giants that bad. Yeah, the Giants are that bad. There's no way you lose to them twice in a 3-week span with a bye week in between. No. Somebody gotta go. I don't care if it ain't Robert Rivera. Then Dave Snyder needs to step down. Then the coordinator, defense coordinator, somebody needs to step down. The Giants are terrible. There's no way. There's just no way. I don't care about turnovers. I don't care about Carson Wentz go out there and look like a retard. I don't care. There's no way you could lose 2 times in 3 weeks to them. With a bye week in between to prepare for it. No, that's no excuse. There's no excuse there. Not twice. I understand, everything happens. You can lose to once, but we lose to them twice. Ron Rivera needs to go ahead and resign. Somebody needs to go. Buy somebody. Just start over. I don't give a damn. There's a quarterback coach, running back coach call plays for the next season. Somebody got to roll.
All right. So what do you got them going?
Giants, I give them 5 wins. Out of respect, I give them 5 wins.
Okay. All right, cool. Corey, you got the Dallas Cowboys.
Alrighty, Dallas Cowboys. Starting off with coach. I don't think I've made it any secret. I don't care for Mike McCarthy. I don't think he's a great coach. I think he should start this season on the hot seat. I've never one for firing a head coach after one season, but I wouldn't have blamed Dallas for doing so last year.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Mo's the same way.
Yeah, see, this is the exception for me, not the rule like Mo. Offensively, I think they've at least got the hard part figured out with Dak now that they, finally paid him. But they are seemingly going to be asking a lot of him this year. We'll see how he responds. I think, the focus from most everyone and the talk is going to be about them trading away Amari Cooper. But personally, I think the bigger question for that offense this year is their offensive line. They've had guys miss time and just gotten very inconsistent play the last couple of years. When they were, having their most success, it was behind, the offensive line leading the way. We'll see what the line looks like this year. If it's gotten better, I don't know. Tyron Smith has been a stalwart on the left side for them, but is age and injuries finally catching up with him? We'll see. Obviously, the big question mark, can CeeDee Lamb be the guy for them with no Amari Cooper on the other side? And I think the talent is there with Lamb, and I think the rapport with Dak, I think he'll be fine. Buzz in camp has been Jalen Tolbert has kind of been flashing as a potential big play guy for them. They're going to need somebody else to step up in that absence, especially because with Michael Gallup getting hurt when he did, who knows when he'll actually see the field for Dallas. It sounds like they're looking to get Tony Pollard on the field more at the same time as Ezekiel Elliott. And I think it's a smart move and something they need to do. I'm a big believer of getting your best players on the field, no matter the position. So if you have two running backs are two of your best skill position players, get them on the field, give them the football. But there's a ton of pressure on Mike McCarthy to make things work. And we will see if he can live up to that. You ask him, his ego, he thinks his system is capable of doing it. Well, time to show up now. Defensively, Micah Parsons is, the first and foremost when it comes to that defense for Dallas. He showed he can be a force on the edge for them last year. We will see how they choose to utilize him. Last year they wanted to make him more of a linebacker than an edge rusher. I think that's a mistake. We'll see if what they choose to do. Anthony Barr was a really interesting addition. I think they needed to get somebody else kind of on the edge with the kind of breakup that they had with what's his name that I'm now spacing on that went to Denver.
Gregory.
But Randy Gregory, and how they just completely dropped the ball on that signing. But I think this defense was definitely better last year than I thought it was going to be. I think it has the potential to be able to get pressure and be good as well. I'm really curious to see what happens to Trayvon Diggs as well. He made the Pro Bowl, had the big interception number, but was one of the most burned corners in the NFL last year as well. If he's not getting those turnovers like he was last year, do you end up potentially having to bench him if he's that much of a liability? It'd be quite the turnaround. Overall, there's a ton of pressure on the Cowboys to win this division. I know there's always pressure on Dallas. They always get a just inordinate amount of attention because they're the Cowboys, but they've got a roster that's good enough to win this division. They've got the talent. They're in a weaker conference. And again, always, as I said before, with the NFC East. And yes, losing a guy like Amari Cooper is a notable loss. That's going to get a lot of attention, but I think Dak Prescott is good enough to overcome that. I just don't know how much I trust Mike McCarthy. I think he thinks his system is better than it is. And I question his clock management. I question his decision-making as a head coach, and I question his play calling sometimes. So I think Dallas should still win the division, but even getting into the playoffs, I don't know that I would expect anything from them. Depending on how bad the wildcard teams are, they may win a playoff game, but when they run into a team like Tampa or Green Bay or someone like that, I would not pick them in that game. I still think they should go probably 11-6, but I don't necessarily say that with an abundance of confidence either.
Dallas Cowboys. Mike McCarthy. It's funny. I was listening to a lot of people about him, and he's like a game manager, not really like. I was listening to Colin Cowherd and on his podcast or his show, and he was talking about how Andy Reid is a game planner, Kyle Shanahan is a whiz with the zone blocking, Sean McVay, he's just throwing all these offensive minds out there. The league's trending toward offense. And then you have McCarthy. So he's given the reins to Dan Quinn and what's his name? I just had it on my tongue. The offensive coordinator.
Kellen Moore?
Yes, Kellen Moore. So he's just managing the players, which it's good and bad, but I think you gotta, play call a little bit in this day and age. But I get understanding how you can manage, man. But we'll see if it works. It's just in Dallas, it's a lot of pressure, especially with Jerry Jones and what he puts out every year. So this happens every year with Dallas, But the chatter's been real quiet this year, not from Jerry, but the media. Usually it's Dallas has a Super Bowl roster. Watch out. This year it's kind of like, do they? Are they going to win a division? So we'll see. Dak Prescott, I like Dak Prescott. I think Dak Prescott is a great quarterback, and I think that's the only reason why they're going to win games this year. It's because of Dak Prescott. And I think he's a great quarterback, the best quarterback in the division. He deserves all his money. But we're going to see real quick what I think Dallas should have focused on. And I don't know if the Amari Cooper trade's going to hurt them. I think he can overcome it, but not surpass it. That makes sense. So Ezekiel Elliott, the running back, I love Zeke, man. I love me some Zeke, guys. I know I'm a Commanders fan, Washington football team. I do. I like Zeke, man, but I think that's just the life of a running back. And I think he maximized it. I think he balled out for 3-4 years. I just think it's hard. It's hard for running backs. And I'm glad that he's in shape. But I think that they need to manage him and Tony Pollard. I know people want Tony Pollard to get the ball more. I think, I think you should have a balance to tackle both of them, if that makes sense. I think, if you run the ball 40 times, I think Zeke gets 25 and Tony Pollard gets 20 or 17. I think you keep it really close. I don't know if Tony Pollard could be ready for a starting role, but if I have Zeke, I want to keep Zeke a little bit fresh. I want both of them on the field at the same time. Tony Pollard's a good receiver. That's just my opinion. I know some people were like, "Oh, just cut Zeke and let Tony start." It's like, yeah, but then what if Tony gets injured? It doesn't make sense. You have Zeke Elliott, even though he's downtrending, he's still running the ball. They run him. It's the NFL. He wants to run, play running back, run. Like it does anyway. So the receivers, Amari Cooper, I think is going to be missed. God, listen, CeeDee Lamb, is he going to be a number one? We're going to see. His potential to be it is different being number one receiver as Juju Smith-Schuster. It's real. It gets real out there, man. Being a number one is, we could say Amari Cooper was declining, but he was a number one. He was a number one receiver. He saw doubles, He got game planned around. So we'll see if CeeDee Lamb is going to take that next step. Michael Gallup's going to be out for a while. Listen, Noah Brown's been doing good, but James Washington's hurt, and they got Jalen Tolbert. Here's the problem. If CeeDee Lamb misses time and Malcolm Gallup isn't back, that's going to be tough. You're almost in a Green Bay situation. So when I said, can Dak overcome it? We know Aaron probably can, especially in the regular season. I don't know if Dak can. We'll see this year. He's definitely going to be tested. And they got Dalton Schultz as the tight end. He's probably going to lead more Dalton Schultz this year than ever. Offensive line, they got the first pick. Hopefully that he can play. But Dallas loves the O-line. So I'll never get mad for picking an O-lineman if you're Dallas, because it's just that's their go-to. They're good. Now, if you're an O-line, if you pick an O-line and you're another team we're gonna get to, that was wrong. But so I kind of like their pick, and I like their O-line. It looks different. So as long as Tyron Smith and Zach Martin stay healthy, they're gonna have a great O-line. The defense they're good. DeMarcus Lawrence. They also said watch out for Osa. Can't pronounce his last name, but he's been doing phenomenal in camp so far. He's very versatile. I agree with Corey. I do think they should have kept Randy Gregory. Because if DeMarcus Lawrence doesn't stay healthy, I guess then you have Markham Parsons that can't rush the passer, so you'll be okay. Vander Esch just came into camp phenomenal. I think he's trying to play for a contract because they didn't give his fifth-year option, and he came back on a one-year deal. He didn't get a lot of offers on the market. So I think that he came in shape healthy, and he's probably going to ball out this year. Of course, Micah Parsons, once-in-a-lifetime generational player. That's all. There's nothing to say about it. He's a beast. Then I like the addition of Anthony Barr as a linebacker as well. The corners, Trayvon Diggs shut down his Twitter because he got burnt at camp. I get it. You want to be focused. It looks like you'll be in your feelings a little bit. But here it goes, like Corey says. When you get into this game of where you're gambling too much, you're gonna pay off. Whereas Jalen Ramsey gambles, right? And Xavier Howard probably gambles. Well, their recovery speed is better and their technique is better. But Trayvon is I think he just needs to work on his technique. So hopefully he's done it in the off season. Because I think he has good talent. I just think he needs to tweak his game a little bit. That's all. Overall, listen, the 17 penalties were not good in the preseason. The 11 penalties were not good on offense. It's kind of like the same thing carrying over. And when you have a team that you want to be good or great, you have to have discipline. You have to have discipline if you want to be good and great, anything you do, no matter what. But if it doesn't start with the head coach, then it's going to break it down. And I do have the Eagles win the division. I do have Dallas up there, but this is the first year I don't think they make the playoffs, man. I think they go 9-8. I think it's Jerry's going to be mad. He's going to fire McCarthy and try to get Sean Payton. All right. Mo, Dallas Cowboys.
Mike McCarthy. I think it's not like Jason Garrett's situation. I can't call it Jason Garrett's situation, but it's unfair, but it's warranted. It's part of the job. He's a leaned up coach. I mean, I think it's more from a standpoint of them winning the division is not enough. He got to at least get to the NFC Championship game or more for him to keep his job. If the Eagles win the NFC Championship game and Dallas make the playoffs, then it becomes how far do they go. If they get put out first round again, I see him get fired Black Monday. I see him get fired automatically. I mean, not Black Monday, but the next day. From an offensive standpoint, I know a lot of the podcasts I've been seeing, they're putting on Dak to see if Dak can carry a team with less talent. And it's bad because with the talent they have, it doesn't fit the expectations that what they put on the Cowboys. From a wide receiver standpoint. It's like, even from a running back standpoint, like you want them to make the NFC Championship game, but I love CD Lamb to death, but he's not number one receiver. He's not number one receiver. He's a good receiver, but if you talk about him being number one guy to help you win games, to help you win a championship, no sir. No sir. He's not that. He's not that. Now you go to Gallup. Gallup's not that. So now you're talking about both of the receivers you counting on to win games or win championship are both number 2, number 3 receivers. Now next dude is what, a rookie? I think next best receiver is what, a rookie? Because the dude from Pittsburgh, he out for the season, right? Or he out for a couple of weeks. James Watson.
Yeah, he's out for
he out for a while with a foot injury. Yeah, he out for like 6 weeks.
Yeah, he's out for a while.
So it's bad. Depending on how you use Zeke and Pollard, I think it'll work because they both motivated. I think Zeke motivated because everybody be like, he's done. And then Pollard want to go out there and get that money. You know, now you see how everybody getting this money, you're going to go out there and ball out. So, defensive-wise, I mean, shoot. I mean, I think that's going to be great defensively. I think it's going to be all right. They're going to keep him in games because Parsons is a baller. You know, Diggs takes chances, but he cut off half the field. So overall, I see Dallas 10 wins at the lowest. I mean, so it's going to be a battle. But I honestly think, me personally, I hate to say this, and I want us to win the division, but I honestly be surprised if Dallas don't win the division. If Dallas don't win the division, I can see heads rolling off the top. I can think it'd be a quick, swift move. I think motivation is a great factor in football. I think Dallas going to be motivated, all this stuff in the off season. Oh, Dak ain't worth it. Oh, the head coach, Sean Payton coming. I can see them. I can see them going on a run and use that as motivation. So I honestly pick Dallas to win the division.
Okay. All right, Craig. Dallas Cowboys.
Cowboys, obviously, every year there's expectations on the Cowboys for whatever reason. I think a lot of times the fans and the media put on them, you know, because a couple years ago they were 6-10. I know they only lost the division by a game, but like every year the fans say they're going to the Super Bowl, they're doing this and all that, and it's just the fans are just annoying. So I do agree with Stephen A. Smith there that the fans are really annoying. Like I don't have a problem with the team per se, but the fans are just extra. But Coach Mike McCarthy, I think he in Green Bay he had Aaron Rodgers and he had Brett Favre. Did he have Brett Favre? think he did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he
So
did.
So
He did.
he had a good
He's had some good quarterbacks.
yeah, he had two of the best quarterbacks there. So obviously
He got Dak too, man.
yeah, I guess. But look at his record.
Coaches will love that, Craig. Come on,
Okay,
man.
that's cool. You look at his record, and his record in Green Bay was really good. And then he comes to Dallas, and he's only 18-15. And that season he had a couple years ago, they were 6-10. They lost the division by a game. Washington was 7-9, so they were right there basically. If you want to count that, I guess. But last year, they turned it around, went 12-5. The defense was a lot better compared to 2020's defense. So Mike McCarthy, anytime you're taking over the Cowboys or you're in the Cowboys organization, whether it's a coach, whether it's a player, anybody, like any type of higher position or whatever it is, GM or anything. Well, they don't really have GM, but any type of position that you're with the Cowboys, you have high expectations. This is for whatever reason, this is the expectations that are with this team. I don't even know why they're popular. It seems like they're just living off of the 1990s nostalgia, basically, of, I don't know, almost 30 years ago. So whatever. They definitely have the hype for them every single year. But I think McCarthy, once again, is going to be having to deal with the same issues that he's been dealing with the last couple of years, which are penalties and terrible clock management. Last year in the playoffs, at the end of the game with the Dak Prescott and the whole thing, like that's terrible clock management. That falls on the quarterback, but also falls on the coach. And then the penalties falls on the coach. Like it's a discipline. Got to start finding some of these guys are doing something, and maybe they'll figure it out. Like you can't keep getting. They had 17 penalties. I know it's a preseason game, but that's crazy. Dak Prescott, the quarterback, obviously starts with him. He got his money a few years ago, so now he's got to try to prove it, and he's got to make something out of nothing because his wide receivers. I'm pretty sure they're kicking themselves right now after they traded away. Damn, I can't think of his name to Cleveland.
Amari Cooper.
For peanuts, basically, and now you got Gallup hurt, and they lost Cedric Wilson, so he's not there anymore. They got James Washington, but he's hurt. He just got hurt Monday. So who knows when he's coming back? I mean, same thing with Gallup. Who knows when he's coming back? So I mean, you got players on this team that I know there's still some guys out there that can probably sign some free agent wide receivers or whatever. I know Julio was out there for a while. I kind of thought they would take a stab at him. They didn't, but it's still some decent guys out there. Some vets that I think.
Antonio Brown said he wants to come there.
See, that's a headache, man. I don't know if he want to deal with that. If he turned up on Tom Brady, imagine what he would do in Dallas. I just don't think I don't think any good and there's a situation for him at all. But I think Dak Prescott's going to have his. This is going to be his toughest season. He's going to have his best season this year. It's just going to be difficult for him, especially starting out the season without two of your top three wide receivers. It's just not a good look for him to come into the season dealing with these issues, I guess. Zeke Elliott and Tony Pollard, I think they could be a top 5 running back duo. Zeke Elliott's production has been going down. Tony Pollard looks like the better running back, but you paid Zeke Elliott all this money, so you got to get your money's worth from him. And a lot of teams, for the most part, have gone to this 2-back system. It's not just one guy, unless you're like Derrick Henry or something like that. You're not taking pretty much 95% of the snaps anymore. So, Zeke Elliott could get 70% or 75%. Tony Pollard could get 25 to 30% of the carries, and to be perfectly fine. I think they both have home run potential. Zeke Elliott is just going to have to stay healthy. So that's one of the big keys there. I do like Dalton Schultz though as a tight end. I know they lost Blake Jarwin, so he's going now. So it's just pretty much all Schultz. That's another receiver that Prescott doesn't have anymore. The offensive line has 2 of the better players at their position. Smith as one of the better tackles, and Zach Martin is one of the better guards. So I know they lost Collins and Williams, but the offensive line should still be decent enough as long as nobody really gets hurt to make plays for this team and keep Dak up on his feet and protect him and make some holes for Zeke and Tony Pollard. So on the defensive side, though, you know, you got DeMarcus Lawrence agreed to a new deal. They went out and they signed Anthony Barr, who should be solid, I guess, for the linebackers. Dante Fowler's another one. Vander Hersch, who can't never stay healthy, or Vander Esch, who can't ever stay healthy. You know, but he's a talented guy. If he can stay healthy, he's really good. They lost Randy Gregory, obviously. So you know so the middle of the group the front seven should be okay if they can just get some type of production, get that pass rush like they did last year, especially with Parsons. We've seen it where a guy like Chase Young, who had a really good rookie season, and then the second year he had all the hype and all the pressure on him and expectations, and he just didn't live up to it. So kind of hope that Parsons does live up to these expectations that he's put on himself. And that, I mean, anytime you go to the Cowboys, you have expectations anyway, but like these expectations that he has on himself from last year, if he can go back and redo that and probably up it this year. So that's definitely there for him. And I think with Vander Esch and Barr, Parsons, that group right there alone should be enough to wreak havoc on quarterbacks and stopping the run as well. Anthony Brown is back. Trayvon Diggs obviously had a really great season as far as takeaways, but he got burnt a lot last year, taking a lot of chances. So I'm pretty sure he's going to probably do the same thing again this year. I don't think he's going to just change after 1 year. So I kind of see him being aggressive and taking chances and also getting burnt. I mean, he's probably going to pick you off every now and then, but he's a guy that's going to bite on moves. He's guys that's going to just try to pretty much just take the ball away, and he's going to get burnt a lot. I do like the Malik Hooker signing. I really wanted Carolina to go after him for the safety, but you know, Dallas beat everybody to him. So Dallas really didn't, to me, they didn't go out and they normally Dallas kind of make like a splashy move, like a big name, like Von Miller would have been somebody who I thought they would have got, or Smith from Green Bay, Zadarius Smith, somebody like that, Honey Badger. But they didn't really go out and they didn't sign like a big type name, like a big splashy name. Julio Jones is another one who I thought they might get, but hasn't happened. So I think kind of they're not really flying under the radar because it's Dallas, but I mean, they're kind of low key this year and they're just going about their business. But I just don't, I don't think they're going to win the division. Dak has, like I said, Dak has a lot of pressure on him. I think the defense is going to be pretty much the same. They're probably going to be up there in the top 3, top 5 in takeaways again, like they were last year. The problem is his penalties is going to still bite him. I just don't see how that's going to go away. And obviously clock management. I mean, this has been bothering McCarthy for the last couple of years since he's been in Dallas. So I don't think that's going to go away either. So fortunately for him and for the Cowboys in general, they have an easy NFC. But yeah, I got him going 10-7. But I don't know if it's going to be enough to make the playoffs. I think the Eagles win the division. I think they're going to be there though. Probably like Minnesota or something like that. So 10-7.
Interesting points. Now we're gonna do the AFC East, and the AFC East is gonna be interesting. I'm gonna start off with the, I'm gonna start off with the New York Jets, man. I think the Jets are gonna win the division. Psych. Let me stop. Y'all didn't even believe me. All right, I didn't sell it good. The head coach, Robert Saleh, he's in his second year. So he's in his second year with a second-year quarterback. They were bad the first year. I just want to see a little bit more improvement. once again, the league is turned into an offense. Not to say it shouldn't be some defensive coaches, but we're gonna see if he was a good hire. But once again, it all depends on on Zach Wilson. So they're tied to the hip. So it's only their second year. I tend to give a little bit. I'm pretty patient. So, but I think he has to show some improvement. I think he still gets a pass, but they have to show some improvement. But the offense, the quarterback, Zach Wilson is hurt already. Glad it was not an ACL tear. It was a non-contract injury. He was trying to get more yards, which is the point. I was like, dang, he shouldn't have played, but he has to play. He's a second-year quarterback. And, unfortunately, we got to blame Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes. And I feel like Deshaun had a good second year, and so did Allen. It's like that second year, it's like, okay, what are we going to see now? But those have to be the exception to the rule. And we got to realize, not every quarterback is going to do that. But if Trey Lance has a good second year, you can't really put it against Zach Wilson because Trey Lance is a really good supporting cast. And he sat for a year. And I'd say Zach Wilson didn't sit, but it depends where you're at. So we'll see. I gotta have patience with Zach Wilson. The running backs, Bryce Hall, Michael Carter. Let's see if they bring balance to the running attack. We'll see. Bryce Hall's a pick that they got this year. I like the pick. I thought it was going to be a first rounder, but that's rare for running backs nowadays. Well, I don't want to say rare, but towards the end of the first round, you're probably going to run it back. I don't know if we're going to see a high pick running back again. I think it was the last one Saquon. Was that the last high pick running back?
High pick as in top,
top 10?
Top 10 type? Yeah.
Yeah. The Saquon, yeah. So it's going to be a second before we see that again. That's what I think. Now, I like the receiving core. Let's see if Garrett Wilson can make immediate impact. Receivers, to me, are one of those positions that I know, Jamar Chase got on quick, but it took Justin Jefferson, a couple games. I think he's going to adjust it, but I listened to the Pivot podcast he was on. He sounds like a well-grounded young man, so he seems pretty disciplined, and he's in New York, so we're going to see if he makes an immediate impact. He has Elijah Moore. Can he build on last year's success and stay healthy? CJ Uzma comes from the Bengals, pretty good tight end. So I think he'll fit right in, can bring some veteran leadership. The O-line is hurt, and this sucks because it's Zach Wilson's second year. Beckton's out for the season, but they got Dwayne Brown. So I'm not saying he's an all-pro left tackle, but he's a good starter. He's up there in age, but I think he's good. So we're gonna see. But that offensive line is shaky at best, man, and that's a problem. You have a young quarterback, man. You need to surround him with the tools to succeed. If you don't have a good old line, that's just setting them up for failure. The defense that's held down by Quentin Williamson and Solomon Thomas. Solomon Thomas, of course, played with Salah, and he's familiar with the system at San Francisco. A quality starter. The edge rushers got Carl Lawson back, and Lawson is already causing a stir in training camp. When I mean a stir, he's ready to play because he missed football for so long, so he really missed it, and he can't wait to get back on the field. He's having a good camp so far. Jermaine Johnson, right now he's not running with the starters, but he was a first round pick, so let's see if he's able to work his way into that starting spot as the year goes on. The off-ball linebackers, C.J. Mosley, Quincy Williams, they were good. They're back once again. The corners needed some help. I like Sauce Gardner. I think Sauce Gardner is going to be a phenomenal cornerback. But once again, corners to me is probably the most difficult position to play on defense. It's hard. Offense, I think, is quarterback. I think defense is corner. The speed, the way you got to backpedal. Yeah, you got to know the defense, you got to know the tendency of the receiver, you got to know the tendency of the quarterback, everything. So, you got to be able to recover. You got to have technique. You got to be fast. You got to have balance. It's just corners got to have good footwork. I think corners is that difficult. So I think Sauce Gardner, and you got to have swag. Corners are they're swagadocious. So I think he brings all of that. The safeties, Jordan Whitehead, LaMarcus Joyner, they're decent safeties. They'll hold it down. But I think they're going to miss Marcus May. Overall prediction, I think the Jets made some good draft picks. And I think they're building for the future. They got a second-year head coach, second-year quarterback. I think it's going to take some time once again. I think I'm just looking for them to improve on last year. So for all the Jets fans, be patient. I got them going 6-11. All right, Mo, the New York Jets. What's your prediction?
I think they're hitting the draft. I think the draft is excellent. But like you said, James, it's going to take a while. And it's a whole, how is New York going to be patient? Because, they fought in games, but now, especially with the injury they got, I don't know, Wilson's going to be out how many games? I think they said 2 to 4 weeks. Was it 2 to 4 or was it more than that?
No, it's about that.
I think
was
the
just
hope
reading
is he
about
can
it.
be back week 1.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're not
All right.
rushing him, but they're
it's tough. They add a lot of talent, and I hope they give the head coach a fair shake because we know how New York can be. They're way away. Like it's right talent wise, they're still last place in the division. Like let's be honest. Like from a talent standpoint, you're fourth in the division right now as far as talent standpoint. And then we're talking about the whole AFC as a whole. You're trying to make playoffs. You're not in that mix as far as talent wise. As far as talent wise, you still a ways away. So I just hope they give the head coach a fair evaluation. I like Wilson. I like what he did towards the end of the season. He looked good. I like who they added. I like the running back Breece Hall. I like Garrett Wilson out of Ohio State. I like the pass rusher out of Florida State. I like what they did in his draft. I know the offensive lineman out of Louisville got hurt, but they replaced him with a Pro Bowl caliber player, Dwayne Brown. So I'm right where you are, James. I'm right there with 6 wins. I'm right there with, we say, James, 6 wins, 7 wins.
6.
I think they're about right there. 6, 7 wins, but I think they're going to be in a situation where it's going to be 6 or 7 wins, but we can see them competing a lot this year where you can look back and be like, they could easily have 10 wins, losing a couple of close games. I don't see them getting blown out a lot. Like, I think they're going to compete this year. I think it's still going to be 6 or 7 wins, but I think it's going to be a situation where you can look back and be like, man, they could easily have 10, 11 wins because of how close they were in games. So I'm going to say 6 wins, but I think it's going to be close in a lot of games.
All right. Craig, New York Jets.
Yeah. The Jets are, I think they're going to be in last place still, but I think they have a lot of talent, a lot of young talent that they can build around. The head coach, this is his second season. Last year he had some okay wins. Like, as far as teams that he beat the eventual AFC champion Bengals. He beat the Tennessee Titans. He was in some games, or he led his team to some close defeats, I guess you can say. Some moral victories. Like they lost to Tampa Bay by 4. They lost to the Dolphins twice by 7 close games. So they were in some games last year. The first game of the season, they lost to the Panthers by 5. So they had some opportunities there that the record, even though they only won 4 games last year, they could have won more. Couple of bounces here and there, a couple of plays here and there, whatever it is. You know, they're a 7-win team or something like that. But the record is, what is it saying? They are who the record says they are, whatever it is. So obviously Zach Wilson being as high of a pick as he was, the pressure's on him. I know he got hurt a few days ago, so hopefully he's okay. But even if he can't go out, I think re-signing Joe Flacco, at least for potential reasons, like they could obviously play him if Zach Wilson got hurt, or just for another, like a veteran quarterback, giving him advice, helping him along, building him up, things like that, from a Super Bowl winning quarterback to have as your backup, I think can only help Zach Wilson grow for the next couple of years. So even though he only signed a 1-year deal, I think this could be a really, really good year learning and getting mentorship from a guy like Joe Flacco. So I think that was pretty big. I think the running backs they had Carter last year, who I thought had a pretty good season. Then they go out this year and they get Breece, what's his name? Breece Hall. So a rookie. So I mean, now they have a 2-back system there. And then you want to throw in Tevin Coleman, like that's another guy. So they have 3 guys that you could rely on there in that backfield. So definitely looking like things are looking up for this team. That I wouldn't have said that a few years ago. Their wide receivers, they had Elijah Moore last year, although he's not a tall guy, he's a speedster. They went out and got Garrett Wilson this year. They got Corey Davis, so they have a nice group of wide receivers there that they can throw the ball to. I like the tight end CJ Uzomah. How you say his name? I think he can be, as long as he stays healthy, I think he can be a solid check down guy for Zach Wilson. Elijah Vera Tucker, I've always liked him, the playing guard for the team. So they have, you mentioned Dwayne Brown, who I thought was a big pickup for this team as far as the left tackle goes. So they have pieces there. I think maybe in like 2 or 3 years, you can see this team going from worst to first, or maybe even a couple years from now. Not a couple years, next year. It just depends on how everything breaks out. I mean, I can see them probably challenging. If everything stays where it is, they keep getting picks and they keep getting veterans that want to come there and improve. I think this team could be one of those, I hate to say it, like the Bengals or something like that. So it definitely depends. On the defensive side, though, they still got Kellen Williams from Alabama, I believe, on the defensive line. Solomon Thomas. So they have some guys there that they can work with. Got a draft going on. Then you look at the linebackers. They have Quincy Williams. They have CJ Mosley, who I've liked. I like the pickup of Sauce Gardner early. They had a really good draft this year. They had a really good draft. They addressed issues on both offense and defense. Try to get Zach Wilson some pieces that he can work with on the offensive side. Try to give the defense some pieces that can build and help those veteran guys with some of these younger guys, and vice versa. The younger guys can learn off these veteran guys. This might be like a low type of like thing to say, but I like the pickup of Greg Zuerlein, who's a veteran kicker. Especially some of these close games, you're gonna need a good leg right there from a guy who can kick field goals and who's accurate, or has been in the past at least. But overall, I just don't know if this team is ready to take this step this year. I think maybe next year they could probably get 8 wins, probably even more, probably 9. If they can actually get everything together and get some more pieces in there. But coming up this year, I got them going 5-12. I could see 6-11. You know what? I'm going to say 6-11. I'm going to say 6-11. I think they get two more wins than they had last year, and improve what they did last year and make some more games that were competitive last year. Maybe they find a way to win some of those games.
Mm. Okay, what they won four games last year?
4
They won 4?
with 13, yeah.
Yeah. You're in agreement. Yeah. Go ahead, Corey.
For the New York Jets, when it comes to the coach, I think Robert Saleh did a decent job last year for a first-time coach. He kind of bucked the trend and was a defensive-minded head coach that got a job. But I think that's because of how well respected he was with his players on the defensive side in San Francisco. I think he was dealing with a bad roster with a rookie quarterback that had no help. But it seemed like the guys kind of bought in on him, and that's really all you're looking for in a situation like that. Overall, I'll just keep it simple with the Jets. I don't think much of anybody expects hardly anything out of the Jets this year. I know I don't. I had them at 3-14 when I was picking through games for the season. Really, they need to get Zach Wilson healthy and just see what they have with him. He has a ton of talent. I really liked him coming out of BYU. I think it was smart to move on from Sam Darnold and restart the rookie clock with him. He's got a ton of potential. I think they did a good job in the draft, did a good job of getting pieces to help build around him. But his development is literally all that matters this season for the New York Jets. So, whatever that looks like, you just focus on that and let the record fall where it does.
Okay. All right. I like that. Let the record fall where it does. I like that. All right. Mo, which team you doing next?
We still in the AFC East, right?
Yep.
Are we doing the Bills or the Patriots?
You do the Patriots.
Let's do the Patriots. Bill Belichick, the GOAT. Regardless of what you feel about him, what happened, all this Spygate, all the other stuff, he's still the GOAT to me. Best coach I've seen in my era. Like me growing up, actually sitting and watching games, actually sitting and watching adjustments, all that stuff. He's the GOAT to me as far as who I've seen live. Matt Jones did a solid job last year. I think he did a solid job for who he was and what system he was. I fear for him for what it is in this system. Like, you don't know have an office coordinator or they gonna run the same stuff. I think, when you lose the office coordinator, regardless of how you feel about him, when you lose the offensive coordinator type of mind that he had, McDaniels, and now you're trying to start over, it's tough. Even with Bill Belichick running the strings, it's tough to replace that. You know what I'm saying? It's tough. So I want to see what he does. They lost some players. They got some players. I think all this is going to be on coaching. Overall outlook, the AFC is good. The AFC is tough. Don't get me twisted. Out of respect for Bill Belichick, I can't see New England not making playoffs. I just can't see it. I just can't. Regardless of what's going on with Bill Belichick, his mind, his motivation, I can't see New England not making the playoffs. So I'm gonna say 10 plus wins for them, and I'm gonna see a playoff. I'm not gonna say a seed. They're not winning the AFC East. I'm not gonna be bold enough to say that. But I can see them winning. I can see them going to playoffs. I ain't gonna say if they're gonna get out first round, but I'm gonna say 10 plus wins for the Patriots, and they go to playoffs.
All right, Craig, Patriots.
Well, I'm not even gonna say nothing about Bill Belichick because obviously he's Bill Belichick. So I'm gonna move on. The quarterback, Mac Jones. They heard he's been struggling in camp from what I've been watching on TV or something like that. But it is what it is. He's having to deal with a new offensive coordinator or whatever they got going on, whoever they're naming offensive coordinator up there. I don't know. So he's gonna have to deal with that. But he's a second year guy. Sometimes you just have the second year struggle. So hopefully he can figure it out and they can get that together going on up there, because they're gonna definitely have to rely a lot on him like they did last year. I think he's probably in tune for another solid season if he can figure out what's going on and try to make it all work. The running backs are just all over the place there, but I mean they've always been like that. It seems in New England. I can't remember the last time they actually had like a really good number one, probably Corey Dillon or something like that. I don't know. It's been a long time ago.
You took it back.
I can't remember the last time they actually had somebody that was a number one, like a significant number one. Like they have Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson and Ty Montgomery. Like they have a 3-hit monster thing like they've had for years. So I don't know who's going to emerge from that group as far as being the actual number one, but I mean they have a lot of guys that they can rely on if they need to. Somebody steps up or whatever it is, or somebody steps down, they have another guy that can refill that role. So what else? I'm sorry, I got a draft pick on. But I do like the wide receivers. I like the pickup of Devontae Parker. I've always liked Devontae Parker. I think he's just been some guy that just hasn't been able to stay healthy on the field a lot of the times. But I'm pretty sure he's probably gonna get hurt again. But I think if he can stay healthy, I think he can be a really good wide receiver, really good receiver for Mac Jones. Mac Jones, unfortunately, hasn't had any receivers since he's been there, so it's kind of been like Tom Brady all over again. But he's working with what he's got. Jacoby Myers and Kendrick Bourne. I mean, I don't know. Jacoby Myers had a really bad season last year. Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. They went out and signed these guys last year, and they expect big things from these guys. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do this year in year number 2. So I mean, they have okay guys that they can throw the ball to, but nobody's like a real big household name or a real big receiver or anything like that. So we'll have to see what happens there with that team or with that group. The offensive line looks okay. New England's pretty much always had a solid offensive line, so I don't really see anything to worry about there. The defense is what's going to be key because New England's defense has pretty much always been like the one consistent thing going on. Besides Tom Brady, it's been like the most consistent thing for the Patriots organizations ever since like 2000 or something like that. They've always had really good defensive guys. Now, I will say that the loss of J.C. Jackson is really to me, it's going to hurt them. I think he was a really good shutdown corner, and he got paid what he got paid for a reason. So I think that's going to really probably hinder their defense a little bit. But signing Peppers, I think helps. They went out and got they went out and got Malcolm Butler. Malcolm Butler went out and got him. Devin McCourty, they re-signed him. So they have a lot of decent players on that team, a lot of guys that from around the league. I don't expect the Patriots to be dropping off too far from what they did last year, although I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I know Bill Belichick, like you really can't bet against them. You can't count against them or anything like that. And far be it for me to do that, but I just think that the AFC is loaded. So I had to go 8-9 for the Patriots.
Quick, right before you go, Corey, Craig, LeGarrette Blount,
no,
Kevin Falk,
no,
and James White. Those are kind of like.
No. I know they had Lawrence Maroney back then or whatever, but I'm talking about a guy who.
Yeah, Maroney never lived up to the first round billing.
He didn't.
No.
Guys I could think that could be like a number one. Only I can think of was Corey Dillon. I don't.
Corey Dillon, and you got to go way back to Curtis Martin.
Yeah.
95 to 97.
Way back because I remember him mostly for the Jets.
Yeah. Sony Michel. Also, he had that one.
He never
good
lived
year.
up to that first round billing either.
No. So I just looked at the website.
Corey Dillon wasn't even on that team. He started out with the Bengals. So I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, he was the lead back in a couple of their Super Bowl wins.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
So
carrying their offense with a young quarterback.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Corey. I just wanted to mention that. The running back.
I'm with you guys. Not much to say about Bill Belichick. Yes, he's a cheater. been caught cheating multiple times, but he's also arguably the greatest coach in NFL history. So it is what it is. Offensively, I'm not sure what to make of this unit. Devontae Parker should be a big upgrade at wide receiver for them, although I feel like he's more of a number 2 wide receiver. Jacoby Myers keeps getting a lot of run, a lot of hype, and I don't see him developing into being a number 1 guy. It already sounds like they may be looking to get out of Nelson Aguilar, who they egregiously overpaid. They always seem to get production out of the running backs. It's insane. It's why I never come close to touching them in fantasy football, because Bill Belichick hates fantasy football and seems to intentionally screw over fantasy owners. He had praise for Stevenson the other day, although it seemed like Damian Harris is still kind of atop their unofficial depth charts. I didn't realize they brought in Ty Montgomery, but he's an interesting potential replacement for James White, who recently retired. I think their line should be okay, but who's calling plays? Like, what are they doing? You have a young quarterback who showed promise as a rookie, outperformed all expectations on him, showed himself to be a capable NFL quarterback at a minimum. I mean, as Mo said, say what you will about Josh McDaniels and him being a train wreck as a head coach, but he was a good offensive coordinator in his time in New England, and he had a big role in helping keep that offensive system rolling for all those years under Belichick. And it seems like when you have a second-year quarterback that you're trying to develop to become the guy, you would want to pair him with a good offensive mind to help him grow, and not stick him with Matt Patricia fighting with Joe Judge for offensive duties, your former defensive coordinator and your former special teams coordinator. What are you doing, Belichick? I don't want to question it because he's Bill Belichick, but it's just, what are you doing? Defensively, they do have talent on that side of the ball, centered around Matthew Judon. I do still like their secondary, even though they did have some losses. And J.C. Jackson, one of the McCourty brothers, retired. Excuse me. And Malcolm Butler did actually just get put on IR the other day, so his season's already over for them. But that defensive unit's probably going to have to step up and help carry that team if they want to make a playoff run, because it sounds like Mac Jones has kind of struggled a little bit. The team has been uncharacteristically undisciplined in the practices with the Panthers and picking fights. And it sounded like Mac Jones was mouthing off to a couple of Panthers and helping instigate a fight. And it sounds like it may be a little bit of a weird year in New England. Like overall, I don't really know what to expect from them. I don't know if Belichick's maybe past his prime, lost his touch. I think the 3 playoff spots, the wild card spots in the AFC, are coming out of 2 divisions. So I think the AFC East is one of the 2 divisions that you're going to have to win the division to get in. And I don't think the Patriots did enough this offseason to upgrade this roster to the point to be past Buffalo. I'm going to say I think they can get to 10-7. But I do think that they're going to end up on the outside looking in when it comes to the loaded playoff picture in the AFC.
Man, you guys are nice. You're giving the Patriots 10 wins.
I said 8.
Oh, 8. Okay. Well, Corey, the Belichick is not beyond reproach.
Yeah, that's fair. He surprised last year. I think did a lot better than people were expecting with a rookie quarterback. But Joe Judge and Matt Patricia don't seem like offensive coordinators, and it seems like you could be potentially stunting the growth of your quarterback in playing games like this.
Yeah, I agree. The head coach needs an introduction, guys. Bill Belichick. one of the best coaches ever. It's been repeated over and over again, which it should be. But he's making some odd choices at offensive coordinator. Craig has reiterated it. Corey has said it. I hear it all the time. It's not just us. Everybody's asking this. It's odd. Whether it's Matt Patricia or Joe Judge, it's going to be tough, and it's going to be an adjustment for Mac Jones. Which is so very interesting when you see the league going to a quarterback-centric league, and you see the potential you have in Mac Jones, who I think ceiling is, max ceiling. I might be wrong, but Kirk Cousins, that's good. That's what I think. But like, if the league is going towards quarterback centric and you're regressing your quarterback, I don't know if that makes sense. If you see all the other teams in the AFC, the Bills, the Dolphins, right? Can't say the Ravens, they have Lamar Jackson, right? You got Cincinnati, right? You have Cleveland, who just got Deshaun. I'm not counting them this year. But then you still have, right? But if we're going future, you got Deshaun, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Tua, Russell Wilson in Denver, Justin Herbert, Derek Carr, Patrick Mahomes. This is just in the AFC. So if you have a quarterback like Mac Jones and you see what's going on in the NFL, you gotta pivot and adjust. And it just seems odd that Bill Belichick's not doing that. That's from my standpoint. So Mac Jones I think he's in the second year. And he looks to continue his growth, but once again, he might regress because of who's not surrounded with and who he is surrounded with. And he a quarterback needs consistency and confidence. And I don't know if the Patriots are providing that right now. I don't see it. The running backs, once again, they're by committee. Damian Harris and Stevenson. Harris almost had 1,000 yards, so he should look to build on that. But this has been going for, maybe Craig said it, man. LeGarrette Blount did have it for a second. Corey Dillon, but after that, it's been kind of a rotation. And it looks like it's going to continue. The receiving core is better than last year with Devontae Parker, but that's not really saying that much. And I like Devontae Parker, but I don't know if he's ever turned a corner in Miami. And he's going to the Patriots, who's not big offense centric. The Titans are great though. Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. Hopefully they should be able to maybe run some 2 tight end sets to open it up. I didn't see a lot of that last year. Maybe I'm wrong. It could have been. O-line, they got Isaiah went back. Right tackle, Trent Brown. Cole Strange. He should fit right in with the offense. Defense is always good, man. You got Barrymore, Devon Godchecks is hold down the middle. The edge is back. Matthew Judon has been having a great camp. He's going to be dominant again. Dante Hightower was replaced with Uche, and that's something Belichick knows is the defense, and I think Uche is going to be good. That's what I do trust Belichick with. I trust him with the offense. I just don't understand his, I don't understand. Even if he said, I'm calling plays, I'm like, all right, Bill. But like, it's just weird that he's leaving them too. So, but anyway, Malcolm Butler, they lost him for the year. I think that was a big loss because, like Craig said, JC Jackson went to the Chargers. So Jalen Mills is having a great camp, by the way, but he's going to have to hold it down. And then, of course, the vet Devin McCourty's back for his 13th season with Kyle Duggar. So, listen, I'm not worried about the defense. I think the defense is going to be phenomenal. But here's my overall prediction, man. The Patriots, they're going to have a great defense. But the NFL is moving toward the offensive side of the ball. And the AFC is tough. Like I said, the Bills, Dolphins, Chiefs, Bengals, Ravens, Broncos, Chargers, Raiders, Pats are left out. And I think because Belichick is unwilling, his unwillingness to adapt to the offensive side of the ball will deflate this season. All right, y'all didn't get it. All right, so I have them winning like 7 games, man. I got them going, 7, maybe 8, but I don't see them. I don't see them getting to 10, man. I don't.
So James, question for you then:
Mm-hmm.
if New England underachieves and goes 7-10,
Mm-hmm.
does Belichick stay?
Yeah, yeah.
And
But I think the owner is
pose
going to
that-
start having a conversation. I think it's going to be.
I
up.
pose that saying more so meaning not does he choose to stay? Does Robert Kraft choose to keep him on?
Yeah, I think they're gonna start having a conversation.
I think
it's gonna be a conversation. I think it's gonna be a conversation.
least.
I think it has to be. It has to be a conversation at this point. Because they had a losing season. That's how they got Mac Jones. Go to the playoffs and you have another season with Mac Jones. Yeah, I mean, I would just question, like, okay, so we missed the playoffs, go 7-10. What's up with the offensive coordinators? Questions are going to have to get asked. Where do we see, what is your goals? Because I get they're going to have a conversation. They have to. I don't know if he'll get fired, but there's going to be a conversation.
I would say maybe a
Discussion
push into retirement.
Oh, maybe. It's going to be a discussion. It'll be like Robert Kraft meets with Bill Belichick in the offseason. That's where we're going to hear that. That's going to come up. All right, Craig, who you got?
I'm doing the Dolphins.
Oh yeah, high flying Dolphins. Well, not high. Yeah, Dolphins don't fly.
Maybe first year head coach Mike McDaniel coming from Kyle Shanahan tree, so we'll see what he can do in his first season. Tua obviously is the main guy. He's been talked about as being not being a guy anymore and possibly being traded to now he's the starter, he's the guy. Then there was talk about Tom Brady coming in after the talk about Deshaun coming in. Like, it was just so much going on. So I kind of commend Tua for just basically just having at least from the outside looking in. I don't know what he's going through behind closed doors, but he's saying all the right things, and his mental seems to be there, and he seems to be just focused on playing football and trying to get wins this coming season, not really listening to outside noise. So he can only do what he can do as far as that goes. But there's going to always be noise, especially when you look at a guy who was drafted after him, Justin Herbert, or you see the potential, like I said, to get Tom Brady, or the potential to get Deshaun Watson before all these allegations and stuff like that. So, Tua's kind of, he has a target paint on his back, especially after the acquisitions that they got with Tyreek Hill, with Cedric Wilson. So, I mean, especially getting a guy like Hill, I know a lot of people see him as just a speedster guy and all that, which is, I mean, pretty much what he is. But I think he is definitely the best wide receiver. He's the best wide receiver that Tua's had since he's been there, which hasn't been a long time. But that you still have Jalen Waddle there as well. So Hill, Waddle, and you bring in Cedric Wilson. I mean, that's 3 really good wide receivers. So there's really no excuse, I don't think, for Tua this year. he's kind of in the same position as Jalen Hurts and Daniel Jones as far as guys that need to actually produce this year. Baker Mayfield's another guy, I guess. You want to throw him out of Sam Darnold. Like these guys are on that same category where it's pretty much Carson Wentz. You have to produce like this year. Like this is year. I know Tua's young still, so even if this is his last year in Miami or whatever, he still has an opportunity to go somewhere else and be productive. But like you can't ask for much more than what they put around him this year. Even at the running back spots, they went out and got 3 running backs. Their running game was 3rd worst in the league last year. So they go out and they get Raheem Mostert, who he can't stay healthy, but he's a solid running back. Sony Michel, who was in LA last year, was with New England for a while. So, and then you get Chase Edmonds, who was with Arizona. So you got 3 really good running backs there who, I guess it's kind of like the New England thing all over again, or a lot of these other teams that have 2 or 3 running backs they could use. Myles Gaskin's still there, but he's an afterthought at this point. But they have, so I don't know who's the starter there. I don't know who gets the rotation. I'm kind of staying away from these guys in fantasy, but in a deeper league, I might pick somebody out of this group. But either way, their running game looks to be much improved. Mike Gesicki's still there. He signed a franchise tag, so he's not going anywhere, at least not for this year. I think he's a really good tight end, though, that they can work with. A good check down guy for Tua. And I know they went out and they got Teddy Bridgewater, who I've never been high on, but I guess if worse comes to worse and they need somebody to throw in there, they could throw in Teddy Bridgewater.
Tua might get hurt. He might get hurt. He's a good backup.
He's not a good backup, but okay. He's not. But I think they have some decent guys. They have really good guys around them. Like they have so much talent around Tua this coming season that there's really no excuse for him to fail. You look at the offensive line. They have Connor Williams, who they got in free agency. They got Armstead, who's arguably one of the best players in free agency overall. So the offense is set up for Tua to just go out there and just ball out and succeed. Now, they're only going to go as far as Tua can take them, but like you can't say, at least you can't say that they didn't put talent around them. On the defensive side, like Christian Williams. I know they went and got Melvin Ingram, he's not way past, but he's past his prime. I just, but he's a veteran that they have in that locker room. Another guy that you can just count on, at least for leadership. Who else did they have? Jalen Phillips, who I thought, in his rookie season last year, I thought he did pretty well. Xavier Howard, one of the best cornerbacks in the league, so that goes without saying. They had Brian Jones, but he's gone for at least a little while. Who knows when he's coming back? But I think having him when he does come back, and Xavier Howard on the other side, like that's going to be a really good combination. I did like the re-signing of John Jenkins as well on the defensive line, just to have extra depth and to have more guys on that defensive line that can rush the passer. Overall, though, I think the offensive line or the offensive side should be way, way improved. But this team is only going to go as far as Tua can take them. I know they had the whole issue with the coach last year, and he said the coach or the owner paid him, or was going to pay him to tank games and all this, whatever it is. But whatever, that's just outside noise now. You got to really try to worry about that too much. And then they had the whole they lost draft picks with the whole tampering thing. So even if Tua, I guess, does have a bad season, I guess you have to go out and you can't draft a quarterback. Unless you trade something, you're going to have to try to go out and get a veteran. Maybe, I don't know, man. It's going to be difficult for them to do it. But this team, I have high expectations for them, honestly. I really expect them to push for a playoff spot. It's going to be difficult because obviously they're in the AFC, but I do expect them to go. I expect them to go 10-7. I don't expect them to win the division, but if everything looks promising for this offense, I know Tua can't really throw the ball deep or anything like that, or he has problems throwing the ball deep. whatever. But I mean, you have some really good guys out there that you can rely on. So I'm going 10-7.
All right, Corey. Miami Dolphins.
For the Dolphins, coaching wise, as always with me for first year coaches, TBD. But I will say Mike McDaniel intrigues me. He was a name that came up kind of early last season as a potential head coaching candidate going under the radar. His name, I feel like, pretty quickly picked up some speed as the season went on. He's a guy that, the offensive players in San Francisco absolutely loved him, resonated with the locker room, and he gave great interviews as well. So, it'll be interesting to see how he works, being such a young coach overall. He was a coordinator for I believe just the 1 year, and hasn't been in coaching a whole long time. So we'll see how it works out for him, but he definitely intrigues me. Offensively, there is a ton of pressure on this unit. They swung huge with the trade for Tyreek Hill. Jalen Waddle showed that he is a legit wide receiver last year. They brought in Chase Edmonds, Sony Michel, Raheem Mostert. So we'll see what the running backs do. It's likely going to be by committee, much like San Francisco was. So, as Craig said, avoid them in fantasy like the plague unless you have a bye week. And I don't think it can go without saying the amount of pressure that is on Tua this season. Now, being a kid, going to Alabama, he's dealt with pressure before in his career, and even overcoming all the stuff with the injuries at Bama. But it's a make or break year for him in a way. As Craig also touched on, with losing the draft picks, with all the off-field stuff and the tampering, Miami's not really going to be in a position to move on from Tua if he doesn't work out this year. So he has a little bit of security just because of the resources that the Dolphins are going to be left with after both the penalties and the trade for Tyreek Hill. But he has to produce. Defensively, I think their defense should be pretty good. I know they lost their defensive-minded head coach from last year, but I really like their front. They kept Agba, brought in Melvin Ingram. They do need Jalen Phillips to take that next step this year. But I do like their back end as well. Once they get both Howard and Jones on the field together, I think the big thing for that unit will be how much their offense helps them this year, because they had a tendency to kind of put them in some bad spots sometimes last year. Overall, I'll say I don't think the off the field drama will mean much for the team this season. But again, I think both the trade for Hill and the assets that they gave up to land him, combined with the loss of draft picks from the tampering, could hinder their flexibility in the next couple of years. They brought in an offensive-minded head coach that had a really good reputation in Mike McDaniel. They made a massive investment into it and getting Tyreek Hill, and they are banking big on him right now. They already really crowded AFC. And I don't know if Miami will be able to keep pace. It's a lot asking to make all of that happen with a young quarterback and a first-time head coach, and a guy in Tua that doesn't have the arm that Patrick Mahomes had, and that's where a lot of Tyreek Hill's success came from. The thing is, though, it also wouldn't surprise me if things clicked. There's just something about Mike McDaniel that I think he could end up being a home run hire. I know they're hoping that he ends up there, Sean McVay. When picking games, had them at 8 and 9, but I could see them surprise some people. If you were to tell me today that Miami gets hot at the end of the year and gets into the playoffs, it wouldn't really surprise me. I think they've got the talent. I think McDaniel could potentially be that guy to help lead that team. And if he can just get some consistent play out of Tua, And I think it will make a difference too, having a head coach that actually wants him, because
Mhm.
Flores didn't really seem to hide the fact that he did not want Tua. I think that could do wonders for Tua mentally. And I think the Dolphins are the team that intrigues me the most in the AFC.
Mm,
I think that there's the biggest range on where I could see their season ending.
mm, mm. Oh man, that's pretty awesome. They do have a pretty big range. Listen, Mike McDaniels is a new head coach. I do like him because, once again, focusing on the offense, and I can't wait to see what he brings in the offensive schemes, because he has a lot of weapons. Tua is back. Tua is one of the quarterbacks. We had our segment. Joe picked Joe Burrow. Corey picked Justin Herbert. I picked Tua. I still think Tua is going to be good. I think Miami surrounded him with everything. They gave him all the tools to succeed, man. And they gave him receivers, a left tackle, and an offense-centric head coach. That's all you can ask for. So I think the receiver. So at this point, let's see if he can lead them to the playoffs. That's his goal. So I think the receivers, once again, Cedric Wilson. I think Cedric Wilson is an underrated signing. Tyreek Hill is huge, right? Jalen Waddle, bomb pick. Cedric Wilson, especially if he's in the slot, could be a nice addition. And I think it's an addition people aren't talking about enough. The running backs, once again, man, they're going to implement this San Francisco 49ers type of system where Mostert is already familiar with it. Chase Edmonds, they're fast. They fit the system. You know, they remind me of running backs I would see in San Francisco. Like, oh, well, okay. I would avoid them in fantasy like San Francisco running backs, but they are going to run the ball. Once again, the wide receivers are loaded, and I love them. They're going to be the Yak Kings, man. They're going to be yakadocious. It's a new word. Let's see. The tight end, Mike Gesicki. I think Mike Gesicki is a good tight end. He'll fit well in the system. You know, he's no George Kittle, but I think McDaniels is going to run a system similar to Shanahan, maybe a sprinkle of McVay in there. But we'll see. But they are going to run the ball a lot. Offensive line is better than a year ago, especially with Teron Armstead, man, Austin Jackson, and Liam Etchenberg. So once again, Tua's getting everything that he needs. Defense has been turnover machines, man. So it's been held down by Raekwon Davis and Christian Wilkins, who I like, who's been improving. Every year he's been in the NFL. I don't think they get enough credit. Now the edge rushers, Jalen Phillips should build on what his high pick was draft last year. And I like Melvin Ingram. I think he brings some value leadership. And they both should be able to set the edge and get to the opposing quarterbacks. The off-ball linebackers should be good in the middle of the defense. Once again, when you got a strong D tackle, strong D line, the strong corners, it's really good. It's really, really good. It helps out the rest of your defense. And look, Xavier Howard is good, and Byron Jones. I think Byron Jones is maybe on track for week 1. So they have one of the best backfields in the NFL. And the safeties, Javon Holland is good. So overall prediction, man, I think the Dolphins have surrounded Tua with incredible talent in the backfield and a receiving core. There's no more excuses for Tua. Because he's supported. He has a coach that supports him. The front office looks like they're supporting him. He has an offensive line. He has a defense. He has receivers. Not one, not two, but 3 good receivers. And right now, I know we say that, but like, that's really good to have. You know? Dak would love that. Could you imagine those 3 in Dallas? Jeez, they win the division. Might go a deep run in the playoffs. I mean, those are some really good receivers. So I don't want to say this, but I think they can make the playoffs. I think they'll be 10-7. It wouldn't surprise me. But if they don't make the playoffs, they might make another decision at quarterback. Pains me to say it because I'm a Tua guy, but you know. All right, Mo, what you got for the Miami Dolphins? Mo?
Oh, yeah. Boom. I didn't even pick that guy.
All right, Mo. Okay. On to the next one, guys. This is hey. Oh, all right. Corey, Buffalo Bills. Get the last one.
All right. Honestly, I feel like Buffalo is going to be just as quick as the Jets, just for the exact opposite reason. When it comes to the coach, McDermott, I think has proven himself to be one of the better head coaches in the NFL. He's done a fantastic job. The Bills organization has been patient with him, and I think that patience has been rewarded. Offensively, my only real knock against them is the running back position, and they're not really doing a lot to upgrade it. Allen's put himself in a class to put at the top of the NFL when it comes to quarterbacks. I really like their wide receiver depth. Khalil, I just lost his last name. The wide receiver out of Boise State. He
Khalil
had a really good
Shakur.
showing.
Shakur.
There we go.
Mm-hmm.
He had a really good showing in the opening preseason game against Indy. Overall, their depth looks really good. Their offensive line should be pretty good. I think they got to get more production out of the running backs. As I mentioned earlier with the Commanders, if Antonio Gibson is at all on the market, I think they should, as quickly as possible, make that phone call and try to get him. I think he would immediately be the best running back on their roster.
Best running back?
Yeah, it's the Moss and the guys they have just been okay. We'll see what Cook can do as a rookie, but I mean, I don't know that he's going to come in and steal the starting job and be the guy. I think they've got enough to get by with a rotation, but I just think their offense would take another step if they went out and got a legit RB1. Defensively, I think if the unit stays healthy, they've got one of the best defenses in the NFL. I think they're going to need their second-year edge rushers and Russo and Epinesa to take that next step as second-year edge guys typically do. But on the whole, I think they've not only got quality all throughout that roster, especially with Tre'Davious White coming back healthy, but I think they've got depth at every position, which is something you need to be able to make a run deep in the playoffs. So overall, I expect Buffalo to compete at the top of the AFC this year. When picking through games, I had them at 14-3. I don't know if they'll get quite that high, but I do have really high expectations for them. I expect them to be there at the end in the AFC playoffs. And barring injury, I see no reason why they can't potentially make a run.
All right. Buffalo Bills, same way. It's gonna be pretty quick. Quick is a good thing, guys, because they're so loaded. Sean McDermott is one of the best coaches in the NFL. For 5 seasons, he only had one losing season. And he was 1 win away from the AFC Championship game. I mean, and it was, that game was like classic. Maybe you could probably say 13 seconds, to be honest. They were away from the AFC Championship game. And who knows, they might have gone to the Super Bowl. So, I don't know if you get Josh Allen the ball OT against that Bengals defense. I don't know if he seals the deal. I would bet on him too. But that's just me. So I think so I had to look up where Sean McDermott coaching tree is, and he's from the Andy Reid coaching tree. Same with Ron Rivera. I didn't know that. I was like, oh, but they're from the Andy Reid coaching tree, which is pretty cool. Andy Reid has his hands everywhere. Maybe for Sean McVay. I don't know. Andy Reid's coaching trees might be bigger than we expect. Anyway, the Bills get better every year, and I like the offensive coordinator too, Ken Dorsey, who was a phenomenal quarterback at the Miami Hurricanes, the U. I don't think he lost a season in college. And I think he's going to pick up right where Brian DeBoer left off, which is important, I think, for the consistency of Josh Allen, the same terminology. When your offensive coordinator leaves and you hire the quarterback's coach, I think it's instant success because the quarterback's coach and the quarterback have that relationship. So it's going to be, the offense is going to be exactly where it was last year. It's going to be no drop off. Josh Allen's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. I think the pressure is different. Now the Bills are a Super Bowl contender. And that pressure is different. Can you uphold expectations? Hold on 1 second. So then you got running backs. I agree with Corey. Devin Singletary needs to be a lot better, but I think he does what is good for the Bills offense. I also like the receiving core. Stephon Diggs is a top 5 receiver. Gabriel Davis also is phenomenal, and he should look to build on the playoff success from last year. And then they have Dawson Knox, so their offense is loaded. And then they have the O-line to protect it. The defense has a chance to be the number 1 in the NFL. The edge rushers, once again, Von Miller's back, which he should help AJ Espinosa take that next step. And Tremaine Edmonds and Matt Milano are really good linebackers. Edmonds moves side to side. The cornerbacks, Tre'Davious White did suffer a bad injury last year, so he looks to bounce back. But they got Khalil Lamb, who's making a really early impact. And then they have the best safety duo in the NFL. Overall prediction is I think the expectations are heightened. They have everything to succeed as a franchise, and it's time for them to just get to Super Bowl, and they just might. This year might be their year. So let's see if they take the next step. And I got them going 13-4, securing home field. All right. Mo, Buffalo Bills. All right. Craig.
Okay. McDermott. I obviously I like Sean McDermott. He was with the Panthers, so no reason not to like him. But I think he's done a really good job in Buffalo, turn that team around. And now he's got the team as one of the better teams in the league, a Super Bowl contender. So no reason not to think that they're not going to be in the mix again this year. this year. Like you said, they were 13 seconds away from going to the AFC Championship game, and just bad coaching. And I mean, I don't know, man. That's just a tough way to lose. Then they went to overtime. Obviously, that's when they lost the game. But you know, it is what it is, man. Hopefully, this year they can put that behind them and make a way to get back to the playoffs. Obviously, that should be easy for them, and then just get to the AFC Championship game, possibly the Super Bowl after that. So, look, obviously the quarterback. I mean, it's not gonna be long. Quarterback, obviously, Josh Allen. He's probably gonna have an MVP type season. Should be really, really easy for him this year. The wide receivers. I mean, Stephon Diggs. I know he is one of the better wide receivers in the league, but looking at his stats, he had a down year compared to the previous year. So, and a down year for him was a great year for a lot of receivers in the league. So, just the expectations that he's put on himself as being a top 5 wide receiver in the league. Expect him to be right up there again. I like Gabriel Davis. I think it was a game against Kansas City. He had a really good game against them. I think he had like 3 or 4 touchdowns, I think, something like that. Was that right? So yeah. So I kind of expect that from that last game to carry over to this year. Now that he's going to be like a number 2, possibly receiver for that team. I know they went out and got Jamison Crowder. He should step in and be a solid receiver as well, a veteran receiver for that group. They also still have Dawson Knox. So you know they have some guys there. Obviously, the Achilles heel has been the running game. So it kind of reminds me of New England and San Francisco, where they have like a combination of guys. Singletary and Moss have been there what seems like a while now, like forever. It seems like it's far back as I can remember. Then they go out and they get Cook. So hopefully he can come in as a rookie and shake some things up. Maybe he could be the next guy there. I mean, he could be the next running back there. But you know, Singletary is still young as well, so I just don't think they utilize him as much. Maybe is that because they don't really believe in him, or they just don't give him touches. I mean, he had less than 200 touches last year, so maybe if he had more, but I mean, who knows? The offensive line should be solid again. They have some really good pieces on that offensive line. It's going to block for Josh Allen, so shouldn't be any issues there. The defense, obviously, the Bills had the best defense in the league last year. I don't see any reason why they won't have a top 2, top 3 defense again. Russo, who I love coming out of college. That just the whole front 4: Russo, Miller, Jones, and Oliver. Like that, those beasts.
They're beasts.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best front 4 I think in the NFL, or at least their top 3. Then you got Tre'Davious White and Dane Jackson, Micah Hyde, like these Jordan Poyer, how do you say his name? He's back there. Like they have a really great defense. So I don't see any reason why they're not going to be in the mix again. And this is just going to help lead their team. Obviously, you get MVP play on the offensive side as long as the running game is somewhat consistent, and you get a great defense on the other side. So I think they do start out 0-1, but I think after that loss to the Rams, they pick it up, and then kind of like the Packers did last year, and they just go on a nice run, and then they finish up 13-4.
Yeah, I think they have. I think they have all the tools to succeed. So, yeah, I think this year it's wide open. I think they get home field. So
yeah.
Yeah. I will say replacing Brian Dable, I think, is a bit of an underrated story there in Buffalo, but I think they have enough in place with Josh Allen. He's grown to the point that I think that transition is made a lot easier as well.
Yeah, I read Ken Dorsey's not changing anything major. He's keeping the same consistent and
And
you know, it's
Dorsey's an
good.
interesting hire. You
Yeah.
know, he's was a a quarterback at the U when they at the tail end of their runs. He hung around the NFL for a while as a backup, and being a making rosters as being a quarterback room type guy. So
Yep.
I think he's an interesting young candidate that if the Bills, the next 2 seasons continue their success, will probably have his name getting talked about for head coaching opportunities.